because the entity which was sending lawyers was closed and no one has cared to check. Maybe it's something we need to check.
I think I've had conversations with Henry and others and said, no, when the bureau or the whoever says in the government says we have cancelled your permit, I don't believe that that's an order for you to close an organization, because a permit is granted to a legal entity, and once you cancel the permit, you have not dissolved the legal entity. So there is no way an organization should close office because someone has sat and says we have cancelled the permit. I believe that should not be the position. And remember that as I mentioned earlier, as I'll mention later, we are dealing with a political problem. So I normally have issues with Peter, because Peter will give you the nitty-gritties of the law. He splits the atom about the law, but we are not dealing with the legal problem. So what we are dealing with is the brokenness of institutions, and institutions of two types. They are state institutions, they are citizens' institutions. The state institutions, we know them: the judiciary, the executive and its agencies, the legislature, and all the associated agencies. These are institutions of state. The military. You guys, you don't think that there's something unnatural to
create and expand space in which parts privileges, jobs and careers for political and potentially political elites could be created. Space was also created to facilitate how other elites could safely and consistently access donor money through the hawking of our people's problems globally. Radical New Birth is not an end, it is a beginning. What we are ending is the 70 years of compromise, collaboration, and discourse. Yours truthfully, Semakade Chimaze.
General Kahindo Kafira is that she's the Minister of Internal Affairs, and that's the ministry that hosts the National NGO Bureau, the bureau that wrote those letters to suspend operations of 10 civil society organizations. This is what he said. And this was a clarion call to the Radical New Birth. Ladies and gentlemen, do not commit the sin of silence. Do not commit the sin of silence. And he said, those in authority must learn to hear. The crime the 10 organizations have committed, in my view, is the sin of not remaining silent. Try to understand the securitized context I'm speaking about. Is to say that Uganda's civic space is currently operating within a governance model where the following are happening. Number one, political dissent is frequently framed as destabilization. Number two, civic oversight is sometimes conflated with subversion. Regulatory action increasingly is relying on intelligence information. Now, when the regulatory bodies begin to take action on the basis of intelligence information, a lot of things happen. Like I told you, if you all the letters that were written to us said that the basis, alleged that the basis for our suspension is because we are engaging in activities that are, they continue alleged to be prejudicial to national security.
I personally am ditching the practice of law to doing farming because there's no future in practice of law unless things change. Because you go to the court, probably you know what to expect. You're going to spend 3 years in court. The client has paid you 2 million, which you are working for 3 years. And the judge is going to deliver the most strange ruling. Like the judge saying, no, the state has said they don't have the person, so I can't give an order for habeas corpus. Like, really? Anyway, so I pity the young people who are studying law. I don't know what kind of law they will practice, but it shows how the civic space has died and continues to die. If the entities that are closed were doing illegal aid work, what is happening to the clients of those entities? The clients who were in prison and the lawyers were from Chapter 4, for example. So what is happening to those clients? Do they still have representation? Has anyone checked? Or their cases are busy being adjourned just because the entity which was sending lawyers was closed and no one has cared to check. Maybe it's something we need to check.
I think I've had conversations with Henry and others and said, no, when the bureau or the whoever says in the government says we have cancelled your permit, I don't believe that that's an order for you to close an organization, because a permit is granted to a legal entity, and once you cancel the permit, you have not dissolved the legal entity. So there is no way an organization should close office because someone has sat and says we have cancelled the permit. I believe that should not be the position. And remember that, as I mentioned earlier, as I'll mention later, we are dealing with a political problem. So I normally have issues with Peter, because Peter will give you the nitty-gritties of the law. He splits the atom about the law, but we are not dealing with the legal problem. So what we are dealing with is the brokenness of institutions, and institutions of two types. They are state institutions, they are citizens' institutions. The state institutions, we know them: the judiciary, the executive and its agencies, the legislature, and all the associated agencies. These are institutions of state. The military. You guys, you don't think that there's something unnatural to have a chief of defense forces of a nation's army who treats the kinds of things that our CDF treats? Is it normal? How is it possible that it happens and the entire country continues to operate as if this is normal? How is it possible?
Previously on Rnblive.
The deception of the 1986 change of power was to present itself as a historical solution to all these accumulated problems. In fact, what it did was to use the illusion of constitutionalism to create and expand space in which perks, privileges, jobs, and careers for political and potentially political elites could be created. Space was also created to facilitate how other elites could safely and consistently access donor money, through the hawking of our people's problems globally. Radical new birth is not an end, it is a beginning. What we are ending is the 70 years of compromise, collaboration, and discourse. Yours truthfully, Semakate Chimaze.
General Kahindo Kafira is that she's the Minister of Internal Affairs, and that's the ministry that hosts the National NGO Bureau, the bureau that wrote those letters to suspend operations of 10 civil society organizations. This is what he said. And this was a clarion call to the radical new bar. Ladies and gentlemen, do not commit the sin of silence. Do not commit the sin of silence. And he said, those in authority must learn to hear. The crime the 10 organizations have committed, in my view, is the sin of not remaining silent. Try to understand the securitized context I'm speaking about. Is to say that Uganda's civic space is currently operating within a governance model where the following are happening. Number one, political dissent is frequently framed as destabilization. Number two, civic oversight is sometimes conflated with subversion. Regulatory action increasingly is relying on intelligence information. Now, when the regulatory bodies begin to take action on the basis of intelligence information, a lot of things happen. Like I told you, all the letters that were written to us said that alleged that the basis for our suspension is because we are engaging in activities that are alleged to be prejudicial to national security.
I personally am ditching the practice of law to doing farming because there's no future in practice of law unless things change. Because you go to the court, probably you know what to expect. You're going to spend 3 years in court. The client has paid you 2 million, which you are working for 3 years. And the judge is going to deliver the most strange ruling. Like the judge saying, no, the state has said they don't have the person, so I can't give an order for habeas corpus. Like, really? Anyway, so I pity the young people who are studying law. I don't know what kind of law they will practice, but it shows how the civic space has died and continues to die. If the entities that are closed were doing illegal aid work, what is happening to the clients of those entities? The clients who were in prison and the lawyers were from Chapter 4, for example. So what is happening to those clients? Do they still have representation? Has anyone checked? Or their cases are busy being adjourned just because the entity which was sending lawyers was closed and no one has cared to check? Maybe it's something we need to check.
I think I've had conversations with Henry and others and said, no, when the bureau or the whoever says in the government says we have cancelled your permit, I don't believe that that's an order for you to close an organization, because a permit is granted to a legal entity, And once you cancel the permit, you have not dissolved the legal entity. So there is no way an organization should close office because someone has sat and says we have cancelled the permit. I believe that should not be the position. And remember that as I mentioned earlier, as I'll mention later, we are dealing with a political problem. So I normally have issues with Peter, because Peter will give you the nitty-gritties of the law. He splits the atom about the law, but we are not dealing with the legal problem. So what we are dealing with is the brokenness of institutions, and institutions of two types. They are state institutions, they are citizens' institutions. The state institutions, we know them: the judiciary, the executive and its agencies, the legislature, and all the associated agencies. These are institutions of state. The military. You guys, you don't think that there's something unnatural to have a chief of defense forces of a nation's army who treats the kinds of things that our CDF treats? Is it normal? How is it possible that it happens and the entire country continues to operate as if this is normal? How is it possible?
Previously in Rnblive.
The deception of the 1986 change of power was to present itself as a historical solution to all these accumulated problems. In fact, what it did was to use the illusion of constitutionalism to create and expand space in which perks, privileges, jobs, and careers for political and potentially political elites could be created. Space was also created to facilitate how other elites could safely and consistently access donor money through the forking of our people's problems globally. Radical New Birth is not an end, it is a beginning. What we are ending is the 70 years of compromise, collaboration, and discourse. Yours truthfully, Semakate Chimaze.
General Kahindo Kafira is that she's the Minister of Internal Affairs, and that's the ministry that hosts the National NGO Bureau, the bureau that wrote those letters to suspend operations of 10 civil society organizations. This is what he said. And this was a clarion call to the Radical New Birth. Ladies and gentlemen,
A very good morning to you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. You are most welcome to this fourth Radical New Bar Press and Public Engagement, a weekly hybrid in which we discuss matters arising regarding the community and the public. You are very welcome. We are delighted to have you here. We are coming in live from the Uganda Law Society Secretariat offices. I would like to request that we get up on our feet to begin the day with the national anthems, and then we can take the day thereafter. Thank you so much.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Thank you so much. You can kindly take your seats. Once again, you're most welcome to our second edition, but number 4 of our sessions of the Radical New Bar Hybrid Weekly Press and Public Engagement, in which the Uganda Law Society undertakes under its mandate of the Uganda Law Society Act, Section 3D and E, to, among its other things, ensure access to justice, but also interrogate matters relating to the law. I am by the name Robert Benonjurua. I am a legal officer in the Rule of Law and Litigation Department. It is my singular honor to welcome you once again to this opportunity of interaction, but also welcome with us very special guests who do not need so much of introduction. One of us from within the building, and thereafter we shall have opening remarks from the acting council member representative of the Central, and thereafter we shall delve into our topic number 1, whose speakers are going to be introduced unto us as well, and thereafter we shall delve into our second topic for discussion, which will be followed by a session of question and answer, and after that we shall have a group photo which will eventually bring the day to a conclusion. I would like to very specially thank those that are following us from online, from the different platforms on YouTube, on X, and on Facebook. Thank you so much for making time for joining us. We really hope we can have this opportunity to have meaningful engagements and make the country a better one and the world at large, courtesy of the Radical New Bar at the Uganda Law Society. Very first, we are going to ask Madame Namuli Vivian to come and open the day with an opening prayer that will usher us into the other activities. Thank you so much.
Let's pray. Kind and most loving, precious Father, we want to thank you for this day. We want to thank you for this gathering. We pray that whatever we are going to talk about, let it come into order. And we pray for your blessings. In Jesus' name I've prayed. Amen.
Thank you once again. We now more than sure that the Lord's presence is in place. And of course, because we are in Lent for the Christians and the Ramadan fasting, would like to wish you a happy Lent period and also happy Ramadan, and pray that the Lord is operating in us. Thank you so much for the prayer. Right about now, I'm going to request the presence of Madame Doreen Natukunda, who is going to read for us the remarks of the CEO in order to begin the day and have a glimpse of what is coming up for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jura. Good morning once again. My name is Doreen Natukunda, and I head the Professional Development and Members Affairs Department here at the Uganda Law Society. Our distinguished guests today, I'm here on behalf of our CEO, who is away on official duty, Ms. Christine Owori, and I'm reading her speech verbatim. Our distinguished guests today, Honorable Yusuf Nsibambi, Honorable Salim Uhuru, Mr. Isa Sechito, Honorable Adeke Ann Ebajo, who is on her way, Mr. Thaddeus Musoke, who is also on his way, and Mr. Musinguzi. Is it Musinguzi? Nuwabine, apologies about that, here present. Our ULS Council member, Mr. Salih Babu, and our members of the Uganda Law Society joining physically and online, members of the press. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is our pleasure to welcome you to this week's Rnblive engagement. Allow me to particularly acknowledge the diversity of our audience, those seated here at the ULS House, and the many others joining us across the country and beyond through our digital platforms. Your presence, whether physical or virtual, reflects the growing reach and relevance of this forum. One of our key pillars of the Uganda Law Society's Governing Council agenda has been digital transformation. but as a practical tool for expanding access, deepening engagement, and strengthening transparency. Through platforms such as Zoom, X, and YouTube, we are deliberately opened to the work of the Uganda Law Society to the public. Conversations that would ordinarily remain confined to the boardrooms are now accessible to every member, every citizen, and every stakeholder. Access to justice begins with access to information. Public accountability begins with public participation. To our members of the bar, I want to extend a special invitation. This particular platform belongs to you. I encourage you to attend physically whenever you can, to contribute online, to ask questions, and to lend your expertise to these discussions. The strength of the society lies in its council. The strength of the society lies not in its council alone, but the participation of the membership. Whether we are grateful to our distinguished speakers here present for accepting our invitation, we look forward to having a robust, insightful, and action-oriented discussion. I welcome you once again. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doreen, and also thank you, Madam CEO, for those warm remarks. We want to believe that they have been received very well, and we receive the blessing of what you have given us. And also, of course, for the council, that is, of course, spearheaded by Senior Counsel Isaac K. Semakade, who, of course, is also represented here directly by our next speaker, who is going to give us the opening remarks, and that is none other than our acting representative on the council from the Central. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Babu. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother Jirua, but apparently I am acting secretary, not a council member Central. Our distinguished guest today, Honorable Uhuru Salim, Honorable Yusuf Sivambi, Mr. Nuwabine Daniel, and Mr. Isa Sechito, the members of the Uganda Law Society joining us physically and online, as well as members of the press. Ladies and gentlemen, you are most welcome for today's Rnblive session, and good morning. On behalf of the Uganda Law Society Governing Council, I welcome you to this edition of the Rnblive weekly press and public engagement, a platform where we discuss issues of rule of law and governance. The Rnblive was established as a structured accountability space anchored in our mandate under Section 3 of the ULS Act, that is Cap 305, wherein the society is mandated, among other things, to assist in matters relating to legislation and administration of justice, to protect and assist the public in matters relating to the law, and to promote the rule of law and access to justice. These provisions do not permit the Uganda Law Society to remain a passive observer. They require us to create forums and platforms where law meets lived experience and where public officials, affected communities, and legal professionals engage openly. Today's discussion actually reflects exactly that responsibility, and I will begin by introducing that the first topic of the day is going to be eviction of street vendors in Kampala, under the subtopic of balancing livelihoods and urban order. And under this, you will know that street vendors were recently evicted from the streets of Kampala, and this raised many debates on whether the enforcement actions are being taken within the confines of the law, and whether the regulatory decisions sufficiently account for the economic realities of the citizens. What happens to livelihoods of those who are who entirely depend on street vending. We are pleased to host the leadership of 2 traders associations as well as the mayor of Kampala Central so that this issue can be addressed constructively and transparently. Secondly, is a topic in relation to reflections on law, justice, and leadership in the present-day Uganda. The recently concluded general elections present another moment that calls for institutional reflection. Elections test the resilience of our legal framework, the effectiveness of electoral dispute resolution mechanisms, and the strength of constitutional governance. There is also need to evaluate the state of law and justice in our economy, and we will thank our panelists for accepting to engage on these critical matters despite their busy schedule, since the invitations were on short notice. We also thank our membership as well as the general public for joining us every week and actively participating on this forum of Rnblive. Thank you.
A wider hand clap for the General Secretary. I would like to categorically beg your indulgence for the mistake that I made. It was beyond my control. Kindly accept my apologies. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the message that has been sent. And as has been said, the topics are bare for us to interrogate. This is a place where speech is supposed to be our power, because we are the voice of the voiceless and we don't take it for granted, and that is how we're able to at least convene and have the audience listening to people that have an idea or are in the aspect of leadership, and of course rule of law, governance, constitutionalism, and of course the lifestyle of the members of the public. And it is at this juncture that we would like to, as we had earlier on indicated about our panelists, that we are going to start with topic number 1, which is going to be regarding the eviction of street vendors. We are all aware, those of course that are physically here and live within Kampala, and also of course have been watching over the social media. It's been a wash about that situation, and recently, not so long ago, we've been having some issues to do with KCCA and Kampala streets. Recently it was the floods, that was last year, and now we're dealing with another aspect that needs to be discussed, and we're not in the right position to begin the discussion without listening to these very, very critical individuals within the area of leadership and also service. Our first speaker for the day has worked in the private sector for over 20 years, and he is a very, very strong advocate of the private sector development in Uganda. He is a board member of the Private Sector Foundation Uganda, where he serves as a chairperson of the Trade Committee and Director of Trade and Commerce. He has served as a spokesperson of Kampala City Traders Association, that is KASITA, and currently he's serving as the acting chairman of the same organization, KASITA. He's also a business consultant and an international quality standards promoter with an international organization for standardization, ISO certification. He doesn't need so much of introduction because he has been very much in these things. And ladies and gentlemen, allow me welcome with me Mr. Issa Sechito. Thank you.
Good morning. On top of the other assignments that I do, I'm the representative of Uganda on the COMESA Business Council. It is very important to discuss the subject of eviction of trade vendors or vendors on the street. And because it was the reason for which KASITA was born long ago in 2002, 2003. It's something we treasure very much because all the other issues that Kasita has done are just accompanying the sole objective for which it was formed, to keep Kampala City, especially the central business district, in trade order. I want to start with the statutory instrument 243, section 3, which talks about prohibition of street trading without permit and the form of permit. And the Article 1 says, no street trader shall carry on business without a permit from the town clerk. Section 5 of that statutory instrument says, it talks about the power to refuse the issue of any permit, and it states that the town clerk or any other authority or authorized officer may, subject to any conditions and directives received from council, refuse to issue any permit for such a period and subject to such conditions and restrictions as he or she thinks. It is very uncommon that Ugandans, when you talk about street vending, they mix two words deliberately. One of them is hawking and the other one is vending. To every person who follows or has ever attended at least a Kamasi class of any kind knows that a hawker is a person who moves with the cargo that fits on the body and moves from one place to the other. This one in Kampala needs to be regulated, given a uniform and permit. The problem is not with the hawker. Incidentally, the problem with the vendor, which word they use collectively, and the vendor is a seller of goods that are stationed in one place, whether it is a shop, a stall, a kiosk, or any other format. During the reign of the late Sevana Kizito as mayor of Kampala, there emerged a very stubborn challenge where the streets of Kampala were all filled like they have been recently, and therefore the council that he was leading passed a resolution to temporarily suspend vending or hawking on the streets of Kampala. And the reasons were very clear, that people came and applied as hawkers, supposedly to be moving around the town, and they would get a rope, tie the merchandise around their waist, and put two sticks in front. When they become heavier, the more heavier they became, then they would add another two sticks, and it becomes a vending stall. As a result of failure to manage that, the Kampala District Council passed a resolution in form of a law that temporarily suspended neither hawking or vending on the streets of Kampala. It has been on for all that time, together with the statutory instrument that I have mentioned, and therefore anybody who has been thinking that removing the street vendors has any illegality in it has not cross-examined the laws very properly. That would not be the very big point, because these are our brothers and sisters. But the challenge that is accompanied with this kind of business is that it has created lots of disorders, including security because of the massive congestion of the city, cleanliness because people don't have where they belong. Therefore, when they do business there, they wait for others to come and clean because they don't pay even garbage collection fees. They have reduced the opportunities of legally operating vendors in the markets, operating vendors in the arcades, who pay very expensive rent, who pay income tax, who pay presumptive tax, who pay trading license. And everybody here knows that a trading license is an instrument that allows you to operate from a premise. Therefore, anybody operating without a trading license in Kampala or a permit operates illegally. So it would be very unfortunate, ladies and gentlemen, that the core Ugandans, if we were forgetting, let me remind you that the largest tax component of the GDP of Uganda comes from Kampala, and this contributes to over 70%. If the tax element contribution to the GDP from taxation comes from Kampala by 70%, anybody tampering with the incomes of Ugandans trading in Kampala is committing a treasonable offense. It's therefore, it was overdue that traders in the arcades who are young children who have finished school but have not yet formally been employed, we contributed capital in small amounts so that they could share the shops. 2 or 3, paying 3-4 millions per month to operate in an arcade. And unfortunately, the people who are within the arcades could not access buyers for a simple reason that they are purchasing from the same wholesalers that the vendors are getting the goods from, and for them they don't meet the overheads I mentioned before, including income tax, rent, electricity, all these things that you know are very expensive as we speak. And therefore, a pair of shoes that would be survival for even government itself in form of income tax cannot be sold, because on the entrance, on the main entrance, the space is occupied by vendors. There would be remaining space taken over by motorcycles, and the other parking would be taken over by the taxis. So the business within the arcades is completely rendered useless. And, ladies and gentlemen, since I became the chairman of Kasita in June last year, I have communicated to Kampala Capital City Authority 80 times, including giving ultimatums. I have been giving ultimatums to the executive director, the Lord Mayor, and the other authorities in the city so that they could do the needful of removing the street vendors from the city. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, they were turning a deaf ear. So, when somebody talks as if something obscene has been done to removing the street vendors, you really wonder. Until we had reached a period of giving an ultimatum for us not paying a trading license or income tax, because we know very well the law. You pay taxes from profits, not capital. So if I am not working, then there is no tax that I would pay. Equally, if somebody else is operating without a trading license, you have no more authority at the KCCA anymore to give me a trading license as a regulatory tool for me to be allowed to work. So inevitably, Kasita had to support anybody in whichever format that the street vendors would be removed. So many people have been asking us, where are they going? Ladies and gentlemen, nobody knows where I am working from. And nobody took me to the small shop that I own. Government is making a mistake of putting itself in the corridor that they are the ones who are going to provide space for everybody to work. It's the responsibility of government to create spaces, to create roads, to create infrastructure, and then Ugandans and the other players decide where they would work from. The only thing that the government is doing, and when you ask a Kasita, is humanitarian ground. We only think that because they have been there, let us think about the moving markets. Everybody of us grew up knowing the Butali wa Miburu, some of us who grew up in the villages. In Kampala, we have over 10 markets as moving markets throughout the week. And if you are serious as a vendor, you can be working for the rest of the days, including Sunday. We talked about evening markets. Ladies and gentlemen, the places where we thought we would put or place the evening markets are now one of the most good-looking arcades in town. You are imagining the Aleni Road that used to be beside the drainage of Nachivubo is now one of the most lucrative arcades. So where do you think you are going to place those people if those places are all now developed into modern arcades? So anything that you want us to improvise is very humanitarian and has no legal basis. What we must do is to tell people that impunitism has ended. The main problem why we have been facing this is politics. I am telling you, we have one of the most wonderful people who think that rule of law only works elsewhere, but when it comes to the vendors, rule of law does not work, and that has been the Lord Mayor for 15 years. Whenever you talk about vendors to go to the right places, he says, where should they go? You ask him, what have you done for 15 years for them to be placed? He would say, we are planning. We don't know how many years he would need to plan as the Lord Mayor of the city, the champion of rule of law, who only thinks that rule of law works everywhere, but not with the street vending. The other person, as I end my presentation, is His Excellency the President of Uganda. Those two heads have been the major obstacle in the removing of street vendors. As of the last time, the vendors that have been removed, we had already passed a revolution. Mr. Salim testifies to this. We had even advertised that we are removing them by October. I met the Honorable Minister of Kampala, Hajati Mr. Kabanda, and he told him, Mr. Sechito, we have done everything, we have announced everything, but unfortunately, the president says his people will not be removed. You just imagine the thousands, tens of thousands of people working within the shops and the markets are whose people? If the vendors belong to you as a politician, where do we belong as the other traders? We are all your people, our leaders, and therefore you all need to plan for us. I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, by requesting everybody in Uganda to appreciate that we are not being segregative, we are not being oppressive, we are only fighting for survival. Because if you are in an arcade where you pay millions of shillings per month and you have no access to the customers to come and buy from you, better you go out of the city. Some people are saying that now these people pose a security risk because if you remove them from the street vending, ladies and gentlemen, can we leave them work and then we, the rest, go out of the city? Can't we become threats? We can also be thieves. And the bigger numbers are in the legal structures. The smaller number are the people outside. As I speak, ladies and gentlemen, I am sure 80% of the people that were on the streets are back in their stalls. They are back from within their shops. Some had come from as far as Ruwero. It only takes impunitism to call. Hello? It is okay, you come. People inviting each other from Umbale, from Ruwero, because there is no action taking place on the streets. For as long as there is an alarm that they are being chased away, ladies and gentlemen, the street vendors run away. First day, over 80% to go to their original stalls. And what we are struggling with is now the 20%, where we think collective solutions can be gotten so that we build Uganda together. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Sheikh, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give a round of applause to Mr. Sechito, who has set the ball rolling. As you can realize, it's a little confusing. You want to imagine on which side you fall, either the vendors or the actual people who, as he has said, not my words, are making payments to the government. And if you realize the statistics that he's sharing with us require debate. 70% contributing to GDP from the traders within Kampala means our lives depend on these guys doing business, paying income tax, paying trading licenses and all that stuff. So this is actually the beginning of the discussion. We don't want to take sides because we want to both be realistic, but also legal, because this is a rule of law space. There's been a little bit of pointing fingers because, you know, you're not going to take the blame, and yet when you're doing your part, there is always a stumbling block, you know, or a hurdle. And we don't want to have any aspect of speaking for somebody who is not here. We've heard of the Lord Mayor outgoing. We've heard of His Excellency, the President of Uganda, who of course have a role to play because they are the actual managers of the city in regard the politics. So we want to take the opportunity to listen in and interrogate. Ladies and gentlemen, organize your questions because I know this affects all of us. Very many of us out of office pass by downtown. We have experienced what he has just explained. You can hardly reach an arcade, and you'll also do the comparison. A shoe of around 200,000 shillings in the arcade, you'll find outside at, you know, slightly lower, 150,000. So you imagine, to you it is an interest, but to the trader who is paying heavily, 4 million, as he has said, is also put in jeopardy. So let us receive the conversation. Thank you so much for setting the ball rolling. The organization that manages and runs the affairs of these traders, and he is currently the executive director of the National Entrepreneurs and Traders Association Uganda, in short, NETA. He is also a friend, as I've said, of the Radical New Bar. He has been here before. As I said, we've been discussing these issues, and we don't want to also whisk them away because they affect our people, they affect the public, and the Ugandan society, as you've seen, a convener is here to have these discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me Dr. Thaddeus Musoke Nagenda.
Good morning, comrades. My name is Dr. Musoke Thaddeus Nagenda. I'm sorry I came a little bit late. I'm not feeling okay. I'm a little bit sick. But I had to come because this engagement is so important to every Ugandan. Greetings from NETA Uganda, National Entrepreneurs and Traders Association. And also in a special way, I'm the president of Kampala Development Forum. We work closely with KCCA as stakeholders to make sure that our challenges are clearly represented to the authority and to make sure we find possible solutions to the challenges affecting the stakeholders in the city. When you are discussing such a topic, it's a little bit tricky, and we need to have several considerations. But we would want also to appreciate the entire government, that this time it had to effect trade order. It had to effect trade order. You know, we have been engaging street vendors. And also, as NETA Uganda, we had offered a free office to coordinate them. And we see how do we change their perception. On a special note, you see where Mutasa Kafero is. I used also personally to vend from that street before that building was built. Unfortunately, comrades we used to work with, they are still on the streets. So in order to find the solutions for street vending, we should analyze deeply and we know what causes street vending. First of all, I think the authority way of operation. At times during festive seasons, they become a little bit reluctant. But through that system, it has groomed one of the investors in Uganda who is in front of you, because I was a street vendor. And currently, I own several entities. I think most of you, they may know about Mpoma Royal College. I'm one of the directors. Mpoma Parents School, Mpoma Junior, Mpoma Bakery, Efrance Nambi Medical Center, then Ketra Electronics. So through such strategies, sometimes they groom entrepreneurs and investors. But how do we handle street vendors? I remember when I joined Casita, they told us that Casita to fight street vending. But you cannot fight street vending without possible solutions. Can we engage our comrades? Can we train them? Can we check their perception? Can we lobby to find possible interventions from the government? Like currently, when we are engaging with my board executives, we discovered that the president had made interventions to the saloon owners, mechanics, the NECOs, our sisters, and all other sectors, saloon owners. And there was a special fund which was instituted. So why can't the government institute a special fund to facilitate our comrades who want to formalize? All over the world, governments invest in private sector because the government is your partner in business. When you make profits, they come and they claim the 30%. When you make losses, unfortunately, they disappear. But they should come and also at least bail you out with the 30 so that you stay afloat. So we think that we should change the way, all the approaches we handle our comrades. But we are happy when we engaged KCCA, they discovered that there are some spaces in the market. So currently, when they migrate back to the markets, then they can also access the Katale loan. Thirdly, the other avenues where these places can occupy. We told KCCA that we got a petition from the traders from Chiseka Market that part of that land of Chiseka Market was remodified to facilitate our comrades who are startups. Unfortunately, up to now, it's not utilized. They are saying that there are some facilities which are lacking, like the latrines. I think that can be worked on. But there are other avenues where the street vendors can be allocated. But also, basing on the several challenges which we who are trading from arcades are facing, the government should come out strongly to address the challenges of traders working from arcades. We have engaged all offices, starting from the big man, His Excellency, Prime Minister. Our comrades are running out of capital. That's why it's true. Some of the traders from arcades had also utilized street vending. Why should I part with 5 million? 8 million. Some shops we are renting 8 millions. When I can save the 8 for these months, the 4 months, the 3 months. In business, profit maximization is also important. So the landlords are overpressing our comrades. Even they don't follow the landlord tenants laws. They anyhow increase rent. They anyhow charge utility bills. We are in one of the engagement. One of the traders asked the landlord, I have 4 bulbs. What kind of calculation do you use to charge me 800,000 shillings for electricity? Do I own a machinery anywhere in this shop? What is the problem? So have you ever asked, why was street vending always becoming a problem? Because also we have issues in arcades. Most of the time I've been calling my comrade, our good brother, the mayor for Kampala Central, Haji Ufuru, trying to explain to him the challenge of these traders. But the fact is, we should also address those challenges. We have made several reports. Because KCCA will continue fighting with street vendors, because most of our comms and shops, they're not comfortable. Furthermore, I think we should champion, as associations, we should take it a priority to make sure that we establish incubator centers. How do we assist startups? How do we assist our brothers who want to join entrepreneurship? That's why Uganda, we are collaborating with Ministry of Education to make sure that we fully facilitate all entrepreneurship clubs in all secondary schools in Uganda. You know the difference with entrepreneurship and trading? Entrepreneurship, we try to research and find possible solutions to the challenges affecting communities. That's why all over the world, people are championing entrepreneurship, because you are a problem solver, challenge solver, but of course, when you're earning a profit. Furthermore, we have partnered with such very young, brilliant gentlemen. I think most of you know Connect Markets. These are some of the solutions. So we should be innovative. You know, lamenting doesn't solve problems. So this Saturday we are going to be at Motive. We are calling our comrades, the vendors, to come and utilize such. So these are special markets in gazetted places where they can come and sell their commodities. What we are doing, even we are offering training to them. Furthermore, we are also availing suppliers at suitable prices, and also market, and also access to finance. So I think we should come up with more brilliant ideas, because these are our brothers, these are our sisters who have obligations to meet. So I think with such unique approaches, street vending can be solved. When I was engaging my comrade Daniel on a certain radio TV station, I told him that, you know, some people when they see us in our, you know, we call our shops viduka. I told him, you know, that I learned urban farming from KCCA farm at Chanja. And I told him I'm going to click on him so that we utilize this very good facility here at Nakasero to train Ugandans, to equip Ugandans with entrepreneur skills. You know, we discovered that even the market, sometimes they could not accommodate street vendors because our comrades who used to work from markets, they didn't want to migrate from markets to shops. They wanted to be stagnant. That even I have a son who will inherit this stall, which is totally wrong. The market is an incubation place for startup business. Our comrades who are leaving university, our comrades who are migrating from big villages, and with little capital. So we think unless we find other possible solutions and we be more innovative, we assist our comrades, that problem will persist. So that's why the approach for NETA is different, and we are working collaboratively with government agencies to find sure that we utilize their mandates. In case some of Ugandans, they don't know the facilities at KCCA, like NETA Uganda, can we tell our members that KCCA has this facility, please run and utilize it? Because some government entities, sometimes they don't market their facilities. So some Ugandans are ignorant. But we are happy that now they have seen the essence of public relations. That's why when I was doing my master's, I focused on relationship marketing and public relations. So we think, as NETA Uganda, with such great engagements, it will change the perception of Ugandans. This vendor, if handled very well, he can turn into an entrepreneur. He can turn into a bracket where he can also contribute to the taxes, because we need to widen the tax base so that the few Ugandans who are meeting their tax obligations, they are not being overtaxed. Thank you. I submit.
Thank you so much, Doctor. You raise very critical issues that, of course, throws the discussion back to the public, which is another way to look at how dialogue should be had, We appreciate the matters you bring forth. We also appreciate your experience and, juxtaposing your experience from where you are to where you are, having been a vendor. So you bring the conversation back to us to ask the questions, what shall we do for the vendors? And earlier on, Sheikh was asking questions of how do the traders in the arcade survive? So it's a balance, it's a very, very critical discussion, and we want to continue the discussion. Thank you so much for engaging us and triggering our minds. We appreciate the aspect of perception and mindset, because this is a brethren. This is our brother, this is our sister. These are the people who either pay school fees for our children, who we are seeing as the future of Uganda, and therefore we can't also dispel their challenges. The Chiseka market vending has been on for quite a while. The vents as well have been on. And we see everywhere that there's complaints, and we're asking ourselves that question. And we don't want to leave this place without an answer. We also want to appreciate your view that the association should come together, because if you are seated in the same living room or same space, I'm sure you will be able to either disagree to agree, in as much as you have different interests. And the fact that you've already been at the helm of the City Traders Association, and we also have a chairperson, acting chairperson, we continue to encourage the intermarriage, because at the Ugandan Society, we are a convener. We take pride in it. We use this opportunity. We always have action points after these discussions, and we hope that we can come back again and say, after such an audacious discussion, this is what we came up with. And we continue to ask that, because it touches the law. You mentioned about the Landlord and Tenant Act, which is something that we implore Mr. Sechito to look into, because naturally, even if you were at your own home, not necessarily having to be a trader, shall you be disappointed if the landlord just comes and increases your rent without necessarily subjecting it to the Landlord-Tenant Act? And I know Mr. Sechito is very aware of it, because that little money counts. That 500 shillings, that 1,000 shillings, that 800,000 shillings from last week or last month of 500,000 shillings. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We want to delve into the next, listening into the next speaker. We have a ton of speakers. We want to recognize the presence of one of our friends, Godwin Toko. Thank you so much for joining us. We were also joined by Honorable Anna Deke. So much. Thank you for your presence. We were expecting you. We knew you also engaged. You're very welcome into the space, and we look forward to listening in to you, and would like to request that we tune our minds into the next speaker, who is not a very small player in these discussions. He has been a part of the businesses in Uganda, and of course, particularly in Kampala. We have enjoyed some of his products, just like the previous speaker has been speaking, from the schools that you've mentioned. Some of our people that we know have benefited from your services, and this is where we bring into play the first elected Kampala Central Division Mayor. That was in 2021, where he successfully won the election in 2026 again as we're speaking, and he was re-elected as the mayor of Kampala Central Division. He serves as the NRM vice chairperson of the Kampala region, and he's also a businessman and the proprietor of Uhuru Restaurants. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me Honorable Salim Uhuru.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our distinguished guests and our land friends of Uganda Law Society, my name is Salim Uhuru Nsubuga. I'm the current mayor of Kampala Central Division and incoming mayor Kampala Central Division. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the CEO for inviting me. This is my first time to come to the Uganda Law Society and to be on the Rnblive show on discussion of evicting our vendors. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank my brother Haji Issa Sechito, my brother Dr. Thaddeus Musoke. They have made it extremely clear. And let us accept, ladies and gentlemen, however much I would have loved to stand again and again and people be voting for me, let us have some sanity in this city. Let us have some sanity in the city, and I want to thank the KCCA and the entire team. Before we went down there, my brother Haji Issa made it very clear: no more property tax, no more trading license, no more income tax, no more taxes at all levels, which means we're now going to be doomed, which means service deliveries would be doomed. So we said, okay, let's sit as leaders, politicians, and we agree this time. Because a politician is someone very slippery, that's the right word. If I want votes, I will agree in the boardroom, but when I come out of the boardroom, I will say, I'm not part of this. But ladies and gentlemen, I've been part of this exercise in the planning. We agreed on terms and conditions. Number one, the vendors must leave the streets. And that was agreed. The hawkers will plan about that later, as my brother talked about. That we shall talk about later because it's in the law. And good enough we are here with the land friends. So they'll guide us more on that. So when we agreed on that, we said we are going to target the vendors, the taxi operators, and the border borders. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would go down there today, you would buy us a bucket of roses, because the work being done there, people are happy. However much, it's our mandate to see we get alternatives for our vendors. Though my brother was saying, why should we do that? It's our mandate. As KCCA, we manage the city. We have to make sure the city is organized. We have to streamline each and everything in the city. Street vending is not a crime. For those who have traveled, street vending is not a crime. I've been in France, I've been in Germany, I've been in other countries. I can assure you, street vending is there on a Sunday. They give a Sunday streets and people are there. I have videos as proof on that. And I thought it wise. On Friday, I was with His Excellency the President and Madam Prime Minister. We said, let's give alternatives and roads. Now I've got a comment from my brother saying, which roads now? The town is looking beautiful, the arcades look nice. Where do we put the street vendors? I still insist, as the Mayor Kampala Central Division, we must have alternatives, and where it is, strictly we're going to insist on the roads. 2, Dr. Thaddeus Musoke talked of Kiseka Market. I do not know what takes us long to give them that opportunity, because the market is there. I mean, the land is there. And it has, I was actually going to be stubborn. I'll be honest. During election time, I was going to be extremely stubborn, go down there with the vendors of Kiseka Market and tell them, ladies and gentlemen, as the mayor and the chairman NRM Kampala, please take charge. But then security, good enough, you know, this NRM government, as we sit here, intelligence is paramount. They will take intelligence and say, hey, this is what happened. So I was called and said, please, you're a leader, don't do that. But I brought that attention to His Excellency, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And ladies and gentlemen, we do not need to invite the president for everything. This is our work. I don't see why I look for the president on minor things that is unmanageable at our KCCA level. So, I can see Nabwine is here. I'm the mayor of Kampala. I'm coming for that market. I'm honest with you. And I'm handing it over to the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are those Nekolera Jangi, the people down there. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to be very fair. I want us to be, we agree, for the good of the city. I saw my brothers NTV and other stations airing a clip of robbery. Will I call it robbery? Of crime rate increasing. As the mayor, I'm saying, is it because of the vendors? And if yes, we'll get solution for it. Or is it now people don't have jobs and are now going to breaking people's houses, making sure when we see our daughters and mothers moving on border borders and then they pull the bags, hit them with pavers. I need to make sure everyone is safe in this city as the mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, the Baganda say, Atasi Mabola Jiwa. I want to appreciate the Uganda Law Society. It's my first time here, but I've been monitoring. By the way, your president is my very good friend, Isaac. Personal friend and a good friend to me. Babu, you'll just send my regards to him. I want to appreciate Uganda Law Society for, coming out and we work together because we need each other. We have to work hand in hand to see we get solutions as Ugandans, we get solutions as you, the land friends. I don't know what you'll call me, who is not a land friend, but I'm here to get guidance and we move for the better of our city called Kampala. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, Honorable. You have been very specific in your communication. Of course, we also receive you as the leader that you are. And of course, the voters who voted you, you must speak for them. But also, we are trying to be as neutral as possible. We need to be sane, as you said. We need to ensure public order. We need to ensure safety of the members of the public. We need to ensure sanitation concerns. And as you said, for those, of course, that have traveled out of the country, you can attest that Kampala is potentially beautiful until some things are done. And we all know that there's always going to be some feet that are stepped on when there's development coming. The question that we want so much to work around is the how. How are we ever going to come around with this issue? And we're asking ourselves, what is the humanity therein, and what is appropriate, what is proportionate, and how do we align whatever we're going to be discussing? So we want to tweak the discussion further and go to listening to a government representative, and that is also going to ask into questions about, as Honorable Issa Sechito said, the constitutionality and the law, because this is the Ugandan Law Society, but everything is going to be legal vis-a-vis humane. And we want to just bring up to speed the provisions that allow for these individuals and the vendors that we're talking about to, vend and find their way around life, especially when the opportunity has presented itself. And under the Constitution, we have Article 20 that provides for inherent and inalienable rights. We have Article 21 that provides for equality and freedom from discrimination. We have Article 29, Subarticle 1E, that provides for freedom of association. And of course, Article 40 that provides for the right to practice a lawful profession, trade, or business. And then obviously, we're going to be looking into Article 43 that provides for the limitation clause, and that, of course, talks about the public interest and proportionality. So we want to ask these questions because we cannot, as I said, dispel the facts and the concerns that the members are bringing forth. And because we are the ULS and the Radical New Bar, we usually want to go to the root cause of a certain item, and we don't leave it unturned. And it is on this basis that we want to ask the question of whether administrative directives can override constitutional provisions and protections. That is a very critical question. And what is the due process? Are we following the due process? And can we have a dialogue with the individuals that we are intending to change their lives, in as much as what we are saying is legal? And the other question, very importantly, as we shall be hearing from the next coming speaker, is whether these evictions can be conducted with procedural fairness, and also whether an alternative livelihood framework that we have since discovered from the previous speakers is another thing that we want to speak into. And we're not going to go so far away. We're going to be listening to an acting deputy director, Public and Corporate Affairs at the KCCA, who has served in various positions in KCCA, including, amongst others, supervisor for guidelines and public awareness at KCCA, a position that he held for over 4 years. And then he is also, as we talk, the acting head, like I said, and he's going to be very critical in how he delves into this aspect, because when you're acting, all eyes are on you. I don't know how he's going to delve into them, but you've realized that when you're acting, then you need to take on your position substantially and substantively. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me Mr. Daniel Muhumuza Nuwabwine, as I had already discussed and introduced him, to give us a perspective of the government to the extent that he is allowed to speak. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Muhumuza.
Thank you. Thank you, and I am sorry I am coming after my boss, the mayor, His Worship the Mayor, but sir, it was not my fault. It was the MCs. So allow me stand on the protocol that has been used here to address us on a few issues. My name is Nwabine Daniel, as we have been said, and I am home because I'm also a member of the Uganda Law Society. We have our colleagues from CAS out there. I would like us to note that Kampala, capital city, stands at a very, very critical point at the moment in our quest to transform the city into a safe, orderly, and prosperous capital. The enforcement of trade order, particularly what we're discussing now, because trade order has a number of steps. We have the transport sector as well that we're yet to discuss. But particularly the evacuation of street vendors comes at the center of today's discussion. I would like us to anchor our discussion in the law, like the MC has mentioned. We shall anchor it in the Constitution and its supremacy. But under Article 176, the Constitution brings forth decentralization and local governance. And in there, local administrative entities are established, which are regulated or which anchor themselves in the Local Governments Act. And for the case of KCCA, the KCCA Act, we equally, I would have gotten. Yes. And indeed, the Constitution under Article 40 talks of the right for citizens to engage in lawful activities. But further, to discuss the legal anchoring of our actions, especially those of trade order, the KCCA Act, that is a creature or that is birthed by the Constitution, brings forth an aspect of trade order or a mandate, confers upon KCCA the mandate to regulate trade and empower businesses by the issuance of license and compliance with the trade laws. The KCCA Act also puts in place aspects of planning and ensuring urban planning, as well as ensuring physical infrastructure, revenue collection, as well as public health and safety. While we are doing what we are doing today, we are also within the Public Health Act that mandates us to protect the public by ensuring sanitation and ensuring public health. We have the Physical Planning Act 2010. I am certain that we have changed the capping, and forgive me for not putting the appropriate capping, but that shall be handled at a later time. But for the benefit of the public, we have the Physical Planning Act that prohibits the trading in road reserves, on walkways, and in non-designated spaces. Then we have ordinances, laws that have been enacted by the council, that is the authority at the time. We have, for example, the local government's city council maintenance of law and order ordinance of 2006, which is a regulatory framework, or which is a framework that was enacted to ensure safety, order, and cleanliness within the city. For the benefit of His Worship, this was signed into law by the then mayor, His Worship, now gone, John Sebana Kizito, on 10th May 2005. But we also have the ministerial directives, because under the KCC Act, the minister has powers to equally issue directives that are in conformity with the central government. And such a directive came on 5th February when the Minister for Kampala, Capital City and Metropolitan Affairs directed that we ensure trade order in the city by the evacuation of vendors. What is the rationale of what we are doing? One, to ensure public safety and sanitation in the city, because street vending, I would have gone graphic, but we are at the Law Society, and I will not delve into what we have found in the city after removing the temporary structures and the structures that were obstructing buildings, but also for the purpose of facts and the public out there understanding what we are going through. When a vendor places a pellet on the street, it is indiscriminate where he is covering it or what he is covering. Sometimes it is a drainage channel. Sometimes it is a sewer pipe along a structure. When that sewer pipe breaks, all you can tell that there is a problem is foul smell as you're passing by, without seeing the cause of the foul smell. When we removed these structures, many such pipes, many such nuisances were exposed. If you get into Chikubo, we have issued over 15 nuisance notices where we are asking the property owners to make good their sewer systems. We have clogged and blocked drainages because of what comes out of vendor activities. So we must protect public health and sanitation of the city. Urban order and governance, economic fairness. We have our friends from Kasita, NETA, and the wider business public that has to be protected by government, that ought to be protected, because if one has clean hands before the law, then they ought to be further sanitized and protected to have a good meal. But here we have formalized traders, that is, they are registered, they have the trade license, they have a TIN, which is their gateway to contribute to the national treasury, and they also incur costs like rent, salaries, they pay local service tax, and all those that go out as expenses of trade. But we also have another person who has almost the same goods, trading them at the frontage of this very trader that we are supposed to protect as government. We even have worse nuisances. I must get out of line and talk about these, since this is a radical new bar. The extent of speech is not limited to the decorum that we had before. We have people who had come with the stoves to roast pork in front of a hijab selling shop. It is simply not legally wrong, but it is also morally unbecoming. We have had cities or places where things have gone out of hand because of disrespect of religious beliefs or even cultural beliefs, the city's image. We have heard on social media, and our friends from NTV, the social media activists, without thought, of the implication on the economy, that is tourism, without thought on the implication of investor attraction, have gone ahead to post the chaos that we had within the city. And so many people would have come here, say, what is that? Where are we going to? There are people who have told us that they didn't know that we had trees in Kampala until recently. The air quality of the CBD had gone up to about 85 micrograms per cubic meter. That is, you see, we can buy a bottle of water to nourish ourselves, to quench our thirst, but we cannot buy a bottle of air to breathe it. The time when we buy air, it is on a bed, it is in a hospital. Yet we have an opportunity to protect the public against such a situation. What has been our approach of implementation? I am sorry, when I came to represent the executive director, I was told that I was giving a keynote speech. I was not given the extent of the time, but I will do my best to summarize. Our approach of implementation has been sensitization and dialogue. First, even if we know that you're doing wrong, I know under the Evidence Act, that is about Section 6, ignorance of the law is not a what? A defense. But as government, we have a duty to wash away the what? The ignorance, to cleanse it. And how do we do it? We do it through sensitization. So we have met several groups and leaders, and there is no group. In Kampala, every formation has a leadership. Every formation has a form of accountability somewhere, whether regular or irregular, but it is there. And as government, we have a duty to engage all of them. We have done it through boardrooms. We have done it on the streets, going out to each city vendor. No wonder, when we came to the point of enforcement, fortunately, we work in a dispensation of transparency. We had the media, the fourth estate, and we thank you, to cover our activities. We went in for enforcement, but by the time we went there, all the traders on the streets had evacuated with their merchandise. Unfortunately, some of them, and I would like to appeal to Kasita and Neta and all the trader bodies that are out there, these guys took the luggage or the merchandise into the properties of the people who are complaining about them, meaning that there is a nexus between a vendor and a property owner or the arcade owners, as well as the tenants of those arcades, calling for further dialogue. We gave market alternatives. Kampala has 17 government markets, those that we own. And before we undertook this exercise, we went and made an assessment of each one of these markets to establish the space available and the state of the markets. Fortunately, the repeal of the Markets Act that was of 1949 and enactment of the 2023 Markets Act, we now have a provision for the establishment of private markets. So we also went out to the private markets to make a proper assessment of the private markets that we have in the city. We established that we have 69 such private markets. But according to UBOS, the census that we had It was 2024. According to the 2024 census, correct me if I'm wrong, according to the recent census, let me hide myself under the adjective recent. According to the recent census, Kampala, by day, has a population of about 2.6 million people. But by night, we have 1.8, meaning that about 700 or 800,000 people come into Kampala, or a transit population. Now, because we have 800 people that come into Kampala, they don't come for anything but trade. So we went out to the neighboring municipalities and administrative units to establish how much workspaces they have, because Kampala is not elastic. It is the same thing that we have. What we can do is increase the workspaces to accommodate even those that are coming into the city. The government markets in the surrounding municipalities had 1,980 stalls. And all those, we gave the contacts of the commercial officers and the administrators of those specific markets, and people go to those contacts. We did not stop at that. The KCCA Act provides that we should develop the infrastructure within the city. The development of this infrastructure is to allow for mobility, is to allow for trade to prosper. Along the various roads that we have made that were formerly dusty, off the cuff, I can talk of Sapolo Kagwa Road, I can talk of the notorious Salama Road, Kabega Road, Wamala, Suna 1, Suna 2, Old Mubende, Kulambilo Ring Road, to mention but a few, have now gotten tarmac, walkways, street lights, and the properties there are being repainted, renovated to make way or to join the real estate market. We have vendors who would lay on the street merchandise that would cover over 8 meters, some of them having over 500 bags, over 200 pairs of shoes. And some of these would have employees, about 6 of them calling on customers. These are traders that can take on those shops at modest rates because of the increase in the properties. Also, the cost of rent has equally gone down because most of these properties do not have tenants because of the state of the infrastructure in those areas. At 250,000, between 250 to 350,000, one can get a 10 by 10 foot shop on Kabega Road, on Wamara Road. This merchandise that would get spoiled if the rains came, and heavens forbid, or notoriously to say, if an enforcement officer came by, that trader can go in that space. But we have not stopped at that. We have also given alternatives of online trading. KCCA at the Employment Services Bureau at Sezibwa offers free 1-week courses, a free 1-week package for the young people to learn how to trade using their phones and move away from the entertainment that it gives them in the form of TikTok videos and all these other funny things that we do that we post. But also, we are giving accountability. We are sanctioning our officers that are conniving to make sure that these people remain there. NTV recently ran a story We have asked them for footage, they have not yet given it to us because we want to use it for administrative action. Because for evidence to be admissible, there are protocols that you must follow in order to sanction an errand officer. But we are accounting to the public each time. And part of that accountability comes in an update. By close of business yesterday, we had gotten registrations, new registrations in our markets that are now closing in to 970 across. So out of the 2,520 slots that we had, we have 900, those that are fully registered. I'm not looking at the applications that we have got. So we have 920 new registrations in our markets. We are yet to find out how many have gone into the private markets and those that have gone to the markets outside Kampala. Today, we are going to issue a statement, a public statement, showing the stalls available by department. My brother Thaddeus talked of money, these people needing money as ventures. In the markets, government is now issuing the Katari loan. So those people who are on the streets can go to the markets and get the Katari loan. Now, what we are doing is human-centered. I can tell you for the fact that we are part of the population we serve. I personally am from Chisenyi here, social center, and his worship is my representative. At least he knows my home. So I speak for the people from where I come. And we are part of the community. The vendors are our brothers. In fact, some of them are his relatives, his worship. So they are our people. Eh? And we must, because after this job, I am going back there. That is the place I call home. I must get back. So we are doing this with a human face. That is why we have not had arrests in ensuring trade order. And it's a partnership. I met Mr. Sechito at the radio and asked him, I even called him and said, you man, when we are not getting these people away, you are harassing us. Now that they have gone away, you have kept quiet. You can't approbate and reprobate, really. Eh? So, before I conclude, allow me respond to two things. One, addressing the issue of evening and Sunday markets. When does evening start? It is a question that we are discussing, and the spaces. As technocrats, of course, we are discussing this so that we can go back and report to the political leadership. Because the political leadership represents the will of the people. But we also must advise judiciously in order for them to make an informed decision. If they make a bad decision, then the people will not vote for them, will not give them another mandate. So what we are studying is, what time does evening start? What time does the trader want to protect? Will it make sense to have an evening market in the same place where we are telling vendors to live? Will it make sense having an evening market in the same green space that we are repairing today? But we have so many outskirts, we're looking at other spaces that we can use, school fields, after school, we are looking at non-busy streets to allow for quick evacuation of traffic from the city. We are looking at all those, but of course in liaison with the political leadership. Sunday markets. Must the Sunday market be on Home Street? Those are questions that we are asking. But if not, or if yes, how shall we conduct it? Shall we have sufficient facilities? I can tell you graphically that we found Buvera, black cavera, with human excreta on the streets of Kampala, because where does all this population go? Because whoever eats must what? You're the one who has said it. Forgive my decorum. Eh? So we found such situations. So must we do that? Must we allow how shall we work on the sanitation facilities? And if we have put these people in the markets, we can easily control the markets, because the toilets in the markets are free. We can know that the mango you're going to eat is washed by water from National Water and Sewage Corporation. But on the streets, where does that water come from? We have seen scenes of a vendor spitting on a towel and cleaning a mango to make it shine. Is that what we want? As a citizen and as a dweller of Kampala first, I would respond in the negative. It is not what I want, it is not what we want, and it is not where we are going. In conclusion, I would like we at KCCA, from the Executive Director, Hajat Sharif Abuzeki, to every one of us, we would love to thank the vendors themselves for not putting up a fight in the quest of what we are determined to do. We would like to thank the legal fraternity, especially the Radical New Bar. We have seen the face of the Radical New Bar in the face of other government programs, but for this one we have had a day in the massage parlor. I think because you equally want to enjoy downtown, but also the political leadership. Ndugu Uhuru, we are very, very grateful. Even if we have the issue of Kiseka Market, we need to put a sanitary facility at Kiseka Market. We need to put a shelter such that once people get into Kiseka Market, and we are in advanced stages of negotiating for that, and I'm sure from here, Your Worship, you can have a telephone conversation with the Executive Director for the latest development about Kiseka Market. I'm sure your discussion with His Excellency is partly responsible for the fruits that have come through. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to have a city that we are proud of. We want NTV, NBS, and all the other private players, social media, to present a positive image of Kampala. And it takes you and us to create a livable city. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Muhumuza. We are very grateful for the perspective that you have shared, and we want to just remind us that the bottom line of this conversation is to ensure we have a decent, safe, and secure Kampala city, which is, of course, the biggest and generates 70% towards the GDP of the country. So we thought it would be right to get perspective in as far as the law is concerned, to ensure that It is not a headless chicken running up and about without direction. Thank you so much for bringing it to the fore. You have mentioned various laws that, as I had earlier on began with the Constitution, you have opened our eyes and ears and our minds to different laws, the Ordinance Act, the KCCA Act, the Public Health Act, and so many others, the Markets Act, the Local Government Act, of course, giving perspective towards the rationale, as you said, which of course is not very hard to see, because none of us would appreciate what he said about the Black Cavera and the contents therein. Nothing that is appreciable, because when you get your visitors from out of the country, they're very excited about Kampala. They always want to walk through the streets and see what happens. And you see, having this big number of 2.6 million individuals in the day in Kampala means there's going to be a lot of interaction. So your visitors should also be, treated to formidable living, formidable interaction, let alone the 1.8 million that are available in Kampala in the night. And of course, we are picking out a few talking points, because when you look and talk about urban order and governance, we cannot run away from the fact that Uganda's motto, for God and my country, the Lord that we serve, Allah, is an organized God. It's only right that we encourage dialogue. And when the organization like KCCA comes forth to invite the other different organizations, it goes without saying that we are in a place that requires a little bit of sanity, dialogue, and sitting back to talk to each other. We want to thank you so much for the effort. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you so much for bringing this to the fore. Maybe also for us to note the different markets that have been highlighted means there's different spaces out of Kampala. We, of course, might be very excited and very anxious about the market that Kampala presents, but we also know that Kampala has been extending. Kampala has extended towards, Wakiso. Kampala has extended extensively towards, as you said, Wakiso, Gayaza, across in Budo. You still find the population very high. Natete, the population is so high. At Chiseka, you find there's a lot of population, but of course, these guys are also buying product to take out to the different various suburbs. So it's an encouragement, as you can pick from what he has presented, that we should be looking at also extending out of Kampala so that we don't necessarily have to fight from within. And your appreciation of the Radical New Bar goes without saying, because for us, we are a people person. We look at least convening and making sure that everybody is heard, the voice of the voiceless. We use this opportunity. This happens every week. We thank you for, of course, taking in the invitation, but also we look forward to further conversation. And it is at this juncture that we'd like to, give a hand clap to the panelists that presented for the first topic. It's about time that we delve into the next topic, which of course is also very critical. We're going to be juxtaposing the law and the election period, which we are still getting a hang of. It's not going to be so far away from what we have been discussing for the past 1.5 months. We've been very critical about the elections, which of course affects all of us, regardless of where we are, regardless of whether you're out of the country. We know you're following us, and maybe for you to know the president, who is your friend, your worship, the president is watching the show. He's always online, and you can be sure that he's received the regards. And we also want to appreciate your presence. And also, the president is a friend to very many. We're sure that he's here, and we appreciate you for presenting the opportunity that such dignitaries and such distinguished guests are able to be with us and also help to delve into matters that are very, very important. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the topic number 1, and we want to delve into topic number 2, which we're not going to go so deep, because it is important for us to understand where the country is going. And we cannot do away with elections, because the aftermath of the elections speak to us for the next 5 years before there is another election. So it is only right that we invite people to discuss aspects that affect either the elections or justice or the leadership of the country, especially in light of what we just had recently, reflection on law, justice, and leadership in present-day Uganda. And that for us is going to be the gist of the discussion coming up. And we're going to be discussing and listening into a lawyer who, by profession, of course, holds an LLB and an LLM from Makerere University. She has served as a guild president of Makerere University. That was between 2013 and 2014. And in March 2016, thereafter, she was elected as the new National Female Youth Member of Parliament. And in 2019, she was elected as the chairperson, Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Youth Affairs. She has also served as the Shadow Minister for Youth and Child Affairs and a member of the Uganda Women Parliamentary Association, abbreviated as UWOPA, in the 10th Parliament. That was between 2016 and 2021. And thereafter, on May 17th, 2021, she took oath as the Soroti District Woman Member of Parliament and was re-elected to this position in the recently concluded 2026 elections. And as we say congratulations to her, I would like for us to welcome together Honorable Anne Adeke Ebaju.
No, that's okay. Yeah, that should be fine. Oh, wow, thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you, Radical Nuba. Good afternoon to my fellow panelists, and good afternoon to the online audience. Thank you very much for this platform to reflect on the state of law and the elections, drawing our experiences from the recently concluded general election. I want to pay special homage to the Radical Nuba and your leadership. Thank you for facilitating these conversations, and thank you for your leadership throughout the general election. I think it's really a blessing to the country that the Radical Nuba is the way it is at this point in time, leading the Uganda Law Society with what you have been, the kind of leadership you've been able to offer to Uganda during this time. I'm really grateful to you. So my name is Adeke Anne Ebaju, as I have been introduced. I am also an advocate like all of you here, and it's an honor to come here and share a few insights about my experience in the last general election. I am a member of the Forum for Democratic Change, and in that vein, I want to pay homage to Honorable Nsimambi, who has been my leader in Parliament as my whip in the FDC, has been a senior member of the FDC, and very especially was also my lecturer, as is the case for all of us in this room at the law school. A very good gentleman. Thank you very much. It's an honor to share a panel with you. So I think we can all agree. We know all the applicable laws in as regards our elections. And for me, I really would like to submit that this has been one of the worst elections in the recent past in our country. When I think about it and I reflect, I really get emotional because I was an actor in the last. We must note that elections are a hallmark in our constitutional democracy. The right to democracy, the right to express yourself, to associate with any political party of your choice, the right to offer yourself, and the right to vote are all in the Constitution. Articles 38, 59 are very clear about those respective rights. And in the last election, we witnessed so many difficult things very difficult for us as a country and for us as political actors, especially in the opposition. It was neither free nor credible, and it demonstrated a total institutional capture of all institutions in this country, of parliament, of the judiciary, of the electoral commission, of all institutions in this country. The last election demonstrated a total capture. I must note that electoral reforms have for long been the subject of discussion in parliament, among the civil society, among generally right-thinking members of our society, because we are all very discontented with how elections are carried out in our country. But many of the reforms, actually, I must say all of the tangible reforms have never seen the light of day. And that demonstrates, that is a result of the total capture of all institutions, including parliament, which is mandated with this role of legislation. My good friend, Honorable Niwagaba, had for very long been a proponent of electoral reforms. Honorable Segona, there have been notable members of parliament that have pushed for reforms. But after this last election, it makes me wonder if legislative reform can really change anything, if anything at all. And I would like to say no. I don't think that our solution lies in singularly legislative reform, because as we have seen, our spirit of constitutionalism is totally lacking. And as we have seen, no matter what form our laws take, what form our constitution takes, it only remains ink on paper and can do very little to assure us about the improving on the credibility of our elections. So in the last election, of course, we witnessed right from the point of nomination, multiple candidates were nominated and still multiple candidates were denominated, following a very questionable process for various positions of MP in some areas of the country. Some candidates were outrightly denied, with some ping pong happening between Electoral Commission and security forces to deny some people nomination. Many candidates were denominated in the last election. I think we would rightly agree that this has been one election with a wave of unopposed that has never been seen before. And every time people were declared unopposed, isn't it peculiar that it was always opposition candidates that were struck off? Isn't it peculiar that it's only opposition candidates whose seconders turned up saying that they were no longer interested, or their signatures were procured by some fraud or misrepresentation? And it's very disturbing, because when you look at that form of seconding, everything is so clear. It's so clear, there's not much written on it. Just a few sentences, and then you put your signature. And despite that, there is a process that the Electoral Commission undertakes. They verify all the signatures, verify all the NIN numbers. But in the last election, the manner in which the EC was striking off Ugandans from voter rolls, from being nominated, was very, very questionable and very extremely discouraging. For the position of the president, there were notably two women who showed interest, went until the process of collecting signatures. One of them, Nancy Kalembe, later on complained about the integrity of the EC, in that some people were asking her for bribes in order to pass her signatures. So all these things speak of a commission whose professionalism is greatly lacking. And it almost, I must painfully but honestly state that in the last election, it really looked like the EC was working as a branch of the NRM party. We witnessed an unleveled state of the playing field, with everything disfavoring opposition parties and favoring the ruling party in terms of access to voters. I'm certain we've seen all these terrible videos about how the NUP presidential candidate was harassed, about how the FDC presidential candidate was harassed, about how members of parliament, contestants, candidates were harassed in their engagements, in their movements, all speaking of how unleveled this playing field was. Only the NRM had access to state resources. A case in point is Kololo here. When the NUP dared to ask for Kololo to have their rally, so many excuses were put, and they were denied Kololo. Well, we all knew that Kololo would be denied, but I think the NUP for trying and exposing the unleveled state of this playing field. But aside from that, political parties, it has systematically been demonstrated that our political dispensation now may be tending to a forced one-party state, because existing political opposition parties are really being stifled. They are being suffocated. iPod is really the platform where all these political parties belong. But as we followed, many opposition political parties were not able to access resources which they are entitled to by being members of iPod. Even being members of iPod, at some point the process was really being twisted for the NUP. So all that spoke about how unleveled this field was and disproportionately disfavoring opposition candidates. NRM candidates were campaigning with the DSOs, the entire security setup, the entire RDC setup, RDCs, DPCs, all were working for NRM candidates. That's the experience that we have. So, but that is not what elections should look like. The police and all these security organs must continue to remain impartial. They must be non-partisan. But in the last election, we saw DPCs executing instructions to favor only NRM. And that was very unfair. Members, the level of human rights abuse in the last election is unprecedented. It was extreme. It was terrible. Recently, I just found out that there are almost 2,000 NUP supporters in jail cells all over this country. How do we live an election like that? Many lost lives. We are all familiar with the incident at Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi's home, very pitiful and sorrowful incident that left many Ugandans dead. And it wasn't just about ordinary Ugandans, even the journalists were targeted. The amount of human rights violations, abuse was extreme. And then, of course, the suppression of civil society and the media. From 14th of January, Uganda went silent. No one knew what was happening where. And it was a very difficult time. No signal, no voice. Everyone was in the dark. It was difficult to monitor elections, difficult to transmit results, difficult to share, difficult to make follow-ups. And it makes one wonder how much longer, because it can't be like this every election cycle. So much money is lost, businesses are affected, simply because people want to take advantage of this darkness that they have created for us and making it impossible for communication. Of course, the militarization and authoritarianism in the last election. We saw so many guns, active involvement of the armed forces. Many of the divisions were put in charge of the districts where they exist, manage elections in this district, make sure these people are declared, the deployment of security forces, of course, money. The last election saw extreme use of money, extreme voter bribery, and of course to favor the NRM. If you followed, especially us in the countryside, maybe here in Kampala people are used to 10,000 shillings, but in the countryside, 10,000 shillings was changing everything. And it was the NRM giving out this money, even standing at polling stations and dishing out, of course, with protection of security. So this, together with so many other upsetting events, made our election a very difficult one, a terrible one that is almost, until today, it's very hard to recover from. So the turn-up was affected, as you know. In my district in Soroti, we had 52% turn-up, the lowest turn-up that we've ever recorded, for many reasons. One, because people realize that elections can no longer reflect their aspirations and can no longer yield the change that they seek to have. Two, the over-deployment of security made many voters shun the electoral process. Many of them just turned back because of the brutalization. Three, the knowledge that even if they cast their votes, it would really not count. So the turn-up was really poor, and I think for us as a country that should really be concerning, because many people are losing interest in the governance of their country. So it's important to go back, build faith and build trust. But people will not trust a system that has not changed. As long as things continue to remain the same, it's the same result that we expect. And so I would speak a lot about the need for reform, but quite frankly speaking, I think we need a different political order, because 40 years down the road, I don't think any reform can assure us about having more credible elections in our country. But nonetheless, we would speak about the fact that we need to enhance the credibility of our elections. We need to eliminate totally the militarization of our elections, which is something I don't see being done in this current NRM dispensation. It will remain the same because they seek to continue to take advantage of Ugandans and take advantage of that system so that they continue to have a grip on power. Members of the Radical New Bar, I had a huge presentation here, but because of the time, I really can't delve deep into each and everything that's here. But allow me to mention that it's becoming increasingly difficult for lawyers to practice their profession. It's really becoming a disappearing profession with the current status of the rule of law in our country. Recently, we saw one lawyer being arrested when he had gone to check on his client's premises on by the way, order on request of the client. It's becoming difficult for the ULS, for lawyers, and for all of us really to do what we should do for our clients. We need to be more politically involved, because quite honestly speaking, though you take a back seat and you're apolitical, all these things eventually affect you. As I wind up, so much money was spent on the BVK machines, which turned out to be not so relevant and opened the way to more massive rigging. And I think that it's important for us as a country, if we are going to go digital, then we must do it credibly and do it with real good quality. Because honestly, what we saw with the BVK machines is that they delayed voting. Some of them failed, maybe conveniently. I wouldn't say that it was a mistake, maybe conveniently. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. I'd like to particularly thank NTV for continuing to amplify voices post-election. Many of us don't know what mayhem these security agencies did and caused, especially in areas out of CBD, out of Kampala, but it was terrible. There are so many untold stories. There are so many people who are hurting, people were killed, people are rotting in jail, and now post-election it seems really quiet, but the pain in the hearts of Ugandans is still there. So thank you very much, NTV, for continuing to amplify voices and allow people share their experiences from the last election. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Honorable, and also, as you were called while the Guild President, Your Excellency, for your presentation and for bringing us back to speed on post-elections, because, you know, we are still struggling with some few victims of post-elections. And, you know, as the Uganda Law Society, we launched a rapid response exercise that was out there to support victims of elections. And of course, it is what we are here about. We extended this space for another 6 months after the elections, because we know matters in court are not those that can easily go away in a day or two. But also, it is important for us to use this opportunity to pick lessons and experiences from the last elections in order to prepare for the next. I would like, of course, to associate myself and with what she has been talking about in regard to the atrocities and the human rights abuses, which of course we have made mention about, and especially to bring to the fore what our concerns are. And it's at the Uganda Law Society under the Radical New Bar that we speak these issues all out for purposes of getting solutions towards the next elections 2031, so as not to be said to have spoken and nothing happened. We want to continue to bring to the fore, and your recommendation for the reform is what we've all been looking for and talking about, a different political order, you know, that is up to the masses to be convinced and of course sensitized, because by the time we're having a very low turn up at the time of elections, it of course is an indictment on either the government, the duty bearers who are supposed to be sensitizing the masses, especially those that are only making 18 between the period that the election was last held and the next election. So it is a collective effort. The Uganda Law Society and the Radical New Bar is here to support such causes, and we welcome such discussions and interrogations about things that matter. That brings us to the last speaker, who we don't need to overly introduce, but has also been a part of many of our lives, especially the lawyers out there, the members of the Uganda Law Society, and the various people who he has served, especially considering that he is a lawyer by profession with a Bachelor's of Laws degree from Makerere University and a Master's degree from international financial crime at the University of Florida. He founded Nsivambi and Nsivambi Advocates, and also ventured into business. He also served as a lecturer at Makerere School of Law, where he has, of course, lectured very many of us, business associations. For those that studied that, we were very proud to be in his midst, and we are out here. Some of us are very much because he is, and we thank him for coming around again. And he joined Parliament in 2021 when he was elected as the Member of Parliament representing Mawokota South constituency. In discussion of the topic that has just been had and started by Honorable, we would like to welcome with me Honorable Yusuf Nsivambi.
Thank you very much for those warm remarks. First of all, I apologize. I got a back injury. So if I keep pushing this corset, please understand. The executive of the Uganda Law Society, Honorable Ebaju, who is now the whip of FDC, gentlemen panelists, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this opportunity. I don't take it for granted. When I got a call, I was supposed to just attend and listen, but the lady who called me said, if you have a few remarks, kindly please come, we'll give you an opportunity and a slot. So I'm not taking it for granted because so many people out there would like to come and address the legal fraternity. I'm also privileged to be talking to my student, and I don't want to say smartest, the rest will feel bad. Our president, wherever you are, I salute you. I really respect you for your stand and position. I've tried to talk, maybe let me say it for the press. I've tried to talk to the executive about your issue. And in a minute, allow me to say it, that we feel like we are orphans. You cannot have such a brain out of the country on matters which are really principle-based. I don't think they are really personal. He has a stance. He was my student, but I used to consult him on so many matters of human rights, and he should not die a hero outside his own country. In law, I've realized if you have no instructions, you cannot talk on behalf of a client specifically before courts of law. So I have no such instructions. But I really want to request, because I've even contacted a few members here, to talk to the president. You come back, you have a very big fault in the fraternity. Whatever comes up, definitely, many people, including myself, stand by your positions, but you want you here. And you are not in the category which have agreed almost with the executive. I have a list here of called political prisoners. The president calls them criminals, and virtually over 120 will be released soon if it is not for the blockage, the roadblocks created by their respective parties and their lawyers. So I request the lawyers to exercise the law as per the Constitution without undue, without those technicalities of instruction, because the prisoner has no access to legal services. And if you volunteer, you should do it really without coming up with the technicalities. For example, telling the government that they should apologize for imprisoning you because you are innocent. I think that's not fair. The president is saying, okay, these are young men who are misled. Let them just come and say we are misled, and that is it. Because he cannot exercise the prerogative of mercy without admission. You cannot go for pre-bargaining, because pre-bargaining presupposes again some bit of admission, give and take. Otherwise, as lawyers, we are doing these people a disservice. But I'm taking it on. Even yesterday, I had a meeting with the executive, and close to 80 people are going to be released from the various prisons. I'm not saying, Your Excellency, that you're a prisoner. I don't want you to discard your principled position, but we are orphans. We need you here. We cannot talk. We cannot be protected without Your Excellency coming back to the country. If it is okay with you, I will pursue that line, and you will be back as a free man, because you took a position which is legally acceptable, but maybe politically not acceptable. I think I leave that note. Just understand me. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, when I came in, I came to address a club of lawyers, and I know we have the Constitution. Under the Constitution, summary, there are so many articles. When you look at this Constitution, it's crafted by one gentleman I know, the late Dr. Kidu, who was my friend, not just a friend, but I respected him. He taught me 3 major courses introducing law. I was the best student. He also taught me domestic relations. I was also the best student. He taught me jurisprudence. I got, I think, the best mark ever up to now. He also supervised my dissertation. I was also the best student. So when we are looking at when you look at the salient chapters in the Constitution, the bottom line is this not an ordinary Constitution, it's a living doctrine or document. Specifically, under one word, power belongs to the people, and whatever authority must be exercised, looking at the values and culture and the environment, again, in the name of the people. So we're practicing law, and whatever we are doing, be it elections, must be in the name of the people. I respect the radical new bar, but should also be told the same kind of line, in the name of the people. Not confrontational, not just opposing, not too much politics, but dispense justice in the name of the people. I'm very happy my boss now, but my student Anne has really talked about people-based issues. The sentiments, the passion, the talk is around the people. So some of these decisions we're making, we're not apologetic or propagandist, but we want to say, for all these years we have been there, have we exercised or implemented the law in the name of the people? In the last elections, I want to disagree with Honorable Anna Adeke that this is the worst event we have had in elections. I've been a lawyer. Most petitions, the entire umbrella petitions, when I was a little boy. In all these cases, I've been a lawyer in the presidential petitions of Dr. Kizza Besigye. And when you look at what happened this time around, actually I talked to my PA who is here. I said, what is going on? What is the trick? Things are so smooth. So I was wondering, anytime I thought we were going to get the worst, incidentally, it did not happen. During the campaigns, I'm talking about Mawokota, South. Entire campaign, I was not even invited at a police station. I was not stopped to campaign. Then I asked Warid, he's here. I said, now what is going on? How can this happen in this country? Incidentally, things were moving on smoothly. Now come towards elections. That's where we now have problems. We know if you have a peaceful election, there will be stability, economic growth, everything. Incidentally, now, us in the opposition, we create ground for confrontation. How? The main party, our leaders in NOP, they say protest vote. For me, I didn't go to a nursery school. I went to a madrasa. So when you say protest vote, I got a dictionary, and I also Googled. It showed that now we are going for elections, but some bit of what? Confrontation and resentment. Because if you go for elections, how can it be now a protest vote? Protesting against what? Then the attire changed. The national flag is now owned, and you have personal flag, party flag, but now use the party flag to encourage people to join, because it now becomes national. You are patriotic, but in a protest vote. I started the campaigns. I know before campaign nomination, I had got a spine injury. I go for surgery. When I get back, I find now the tone has changed a bit. If you don't have a gari, you know garis, young men, vigilantes with machetes, with stones. Wherever you go to Ferrari, you must have 40 people to protect you, to talk to your people. I said, this gari thing. I also recruited a gari of 40 and another one of 30. So instead I had 100 youth I had to pay in the evening, but I didn't have marching orders and briefs because it was a military. So I became hostage. Say to the one, don't talk. Now they were, the manifesto was useless. So when you go there and an ordinary says, but sir, when you came here, you promised a hospital. Now, then they would just abandon. When FDC is fighting PFF, PFF is fighting FDC. They're almost on the same side of the aisle. Now, at that moment, can you blame the executive? Because you have electoral commission, you have DPCs, you have never reported. So some of these incidents, malpractice and simple electoral offenses cannot annul an election. Now when you go to voting, leave alone the radicalization now. When you go to voting, I'm talking about my party FDC. Apart from my constituency where I had agents, the rest of most of the parts in the country, about Soroti, we had no agents. FDC had no Tare Center, National Tare Center. Now you say elections were rigged in the countryside. Based on what? For me, my constituency in Nigeria, 2 constituencies, 1 constituency did not have even what? An agent. Even where I got an agent, my presidential candidate, the highest number of votes he scored at a polling station were 20. So I don't know, I said I went to a madrasa, but those who went through the law school, you had a sample when you are doing research. So if the sample shows the highest votes you got at a polling station is 20, how can you claim to have 1 when you don't have even a DR and you didn't have a national Tare Center? You call and invite a press conference, does not go through the working committee, does not go through NEC to come up with the electoral report. And you say, in Imbale, we were rigged. So you cannot cause that kind of excitement and anxiety in society. So at this age we say, I think what is going on is not right. We must be creating a harmonious position, because the purpose of the election is basically to ensure that the voice of the people is heard. But we are so poor. No political party has on its account 100 million. And you are running the country crazy on sentiments and rhetoric. I think that's not right. It's not about switching sides and eating, because that's not even a problem also. You are Ugandans as long as it's not a bribery. But this business of blackmailing people and causing anxiety, using lawful institutions to create confrontation is not right. We must check this government strongly, but on principle and facts. If we fail to do that, we get to get a very big problem. Then we also got a problem of cult. A cult where you cannot question the activities of a leader. I don't want to talk about political parties, but you basically know there are institutions here, political institutions, where I will never question the reality of a leader. The systems are not working. You can lobby when you have organs, but can you really allow a political party without a registered constitution even to field a candidate? I think that's our role. All these political parties must be subjected to to a law society review, because we are the eyes of the nation when it comes to the rule of law. All these parties, most of these parties are not supposed to be parties. You can have your club at home. We are not questioning clan heads, how they are running their institutions. But even clan heads have koti ya chisekwa at least. But can you run a party without a registered constitution? 50% appointed by the president, 50% appointed by the secretary general. And then the people who are just looking for jobs, they just say, hey, you talk about it, they say this one has to go. So I'm not talking about credible leaders, as Honorable Adeke said, thrown out, because maybe the ordinary person would like to be represented by the likes of those other people who are elected. But at least at this level, national level, electoral commission, show me your document. Then they say, we have settled out of court. Political parties are not individual institutions. They are national institutions. That's why they are funded by the nation. These elections will go, but let's try to create institutions which are really strong and formidable for them to implement what the Constitution is saying. Power belongs to the people, must be implemented with the values and cultures of the people. I've talked a lot and it's coming towards lunch. I just want to say you are doing a commendable job. Commendable job. I know at our level, when one said he's a lawyer, you would be associated definitely with oppressors and thieves. You've come out as radical new bar. Doesn't mean confrontation, but please keep on with your principles. Last time I came here was during the Sam Njuba Memorial Lecture. The participation of the senior lawyers was a little bit limited, notwithstanding the fact that Honorable Njuba was a senior lawyer. I always see young lawyers active in court and even here at our head office. I find this a betrayal because we are here in the corner and in the slow lane of life. So I think we should really encourage you. And this specific address to the Chief Justice, who was also my student, he's a very good man as an individual, but should not be taken in the same kind of line that the judiciary is under the executive. It is impossible. Just read the Constitution. The judiciary is supposed to be on number 3, but actually, when you look at the Constitution, it's supposed to be number 1. But they operate as clergies because they want to be independent and non-partisan. And that is wrong. Because they have to protect the rule of law. A country without proper protection of the rule of law and implementation. The talk, which I didn't want to comment about, by Honorable Uhuru and Kasita and my good friend, the entrepreneur, shows that we are being taken hostage by the mob. Border cyclists. My daughter has survived 2 attempts by border cyclists attacking her from my own gate in Intina. She gets out to wait for a vehicle, and then they come and grab her and beat her, and she's hospitalized. But you have no recourse. That's not happening anywhere in the world. So I think you young lawyers, for us we are in retirement almost, attending a court session, I will even fail to interpret a section unless I eat a banana. So we are calling upon you, just be strong. Wherever there is breach of the rule of law, wherever there are checks and balances, come out strongly and read the law to the fullest. The Chief Justice, you should actually be on the side of the radical new bar. You should. Because first of all, your background is in these people. Two, we all bow and you know, wherever, even if it's just a magistrate, that kind of culture should really continue to protect the voiceless. Without the legal profession, and I must shout out, without the cooperation of the judiciary, you cannot talk about what you are talking about, that to protect these vendors, because they have no capacity at all to read the law or even to hire a lawyer. So when you intimidate the people who are protecting the voiceless, you are killing the nation. Thank you very much for this invite. I'm always available. I may not be a good lawyer, but at least the age gives me that bit of historical memory to share with you. When you come to Mawokota, you will not see me again as a politician, because politics is also not an easy game. However, I can serve in another political capacity, but not elective politics. Thank you very much.
Another round of applause for Honorable Yusuf Sivambi, and a standing ovation for him. As you can see, we are very grateful for your words of wisdom and your guidance as you gave it. We have come so much close to the end of the function. We, of course, will not hesitate to just highlight one or two things that you have said. One of very important ones is the appreciation and flowers for our President, Senior Counsel Isaac K. Semakade, under whose work, under whose leadership we are operating. And that for us, of course, is a vote of confidence to show that we are doing our best. Thank you so much, Senior Counsel Isaac. We also want to appreciate you for what you have given us as confidence in as far as the rule of law is concerned. We shall not stop at simply speaking. We want to move with action, and we want to use your wisdom. And even if you don't have so much energy and time as well to go to court, we shall either buy you the bananas or we shall represent for you the clients that you have. And of course, you have also helped us to crown it all, to intertwine the aspects that we are discussing today, the traders and their issues vis-a-vis the lawyers' role in as far as their well-being and trade is concerned. So that for us is supposed to show the importance of these platforms, and we are going to make sure we continue with the guidance and blessing that you have provided the Radical New Bar, and also the guidance. We want to thank you for your time. Thank you for accepting our invitation. As you said, you were here before at that night when we were celebrating Senior Counsel Sam Njuba, may his soul rest in peace, and you since gave as much wisdom. We don't take your presence and interaction with the Radical New Bar for granted. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the close of the function. We have very, very few questions that we are going to take for the different panelists, because we know it's supposed to be an interactive dialogue. I know very many of them have spent so much time here. They have intimated they need to run away, but what else can we do if we cannot interact with the public? And His Worship, the mayor, has a question. I know he wanted to run away. And one Nakalembe, Mariam, is asking, it seems like every year there is this chess happens. I think about the traders, of course. Traders are chessed and they are back the next month. Why keep implementing actions that clearly don't work? It's a broad question, but I know you can, give it a shot. There's a microphone before you.
Robert, I'll be very honest.
Yes, please.
It is true, it has been on and they come back. This time, we are saying enough is enough and we must maintain. I'm going to put the blame game on my brother, Nabwine.
Yes.
The landlords have been the enforcement officers.
Yes.
Who are instead getting money and they go back on the streets. But good enough this time, the ED and the entire team has come out bold. Whoever they're going to see on the streets again, good enough the enforcement officers tagged on all streets, they'll be answerable. So I expect this to be a one-off, and it shouldn't happen again. Let's be honest. I told you earlier in my presentation as a politician,
yes,
I would have come out and said, oh, these are my people, this is this, but we're giving them alternatives, and we protect my brother Haji Setsito and Dr. Thaddeus Musoke and the entire business community down there to work in a comfortable area whereby it cannot happen again.
Yes, thank you so much. Honorable Yusuf Nsivambi Muyinza, your namesake Yusuf, is asking, my question is to my namesake. Thank you so much for reaching out. Ladies and gentlemen, questions can flow in through the different social media platforms and also those that are in-house. We have one that's going to go in-house. Honorable Nsivambi, there has been a lot of propaganda about why you joined NRM. Please explain to us briefly why you left our party, FDC.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I'm a Mugole. And in my culture, before you are initiated into Okuzo Mzigo, you may not speak about that situation. Kindly please let me not go in the depth of why I switched to NRM, because I'm still a Mugole.
All right, thank you so much. There is a question for the government representative. I believe that is Mr. Mhomza, I could imagine. Why does government build non-functional brick/closed markets and continue to pretend like they work? There is no traffic in those places and no one goes there. Why would the vendors set up there? That's a question from Orech Innocent. Did you get it, please? You got the perspective?
Government,
yes,
build or put together brick and mortar,
yes,
that doesn't accommodate people to work in those spaces.
And also, I think far away, saying there's no traffic there.
And there's no traffic.
So why do you send them to places which are isolated? I'm imagining.
So what we're doing is to take traffic there.
Okay.
To make the markets function and make roads and walkways equally functional for their rightful purpose.
Yes, please.
A road is for walking, for vehicular traffic and other equipment that move people.
Yes.
A walkway is for pedestrians. Gardens or the green spaces are for beautification and ensuring our air quality. And the markets are incubation centers for humble traders to start there. So what we are doing is getting people to where they're supposed to trade from, into the markets. And once everyone realizes that it is not right to buy from the streets, I will buy from the market, then we shall have the traders in there and the traffic for people to buy also inside the market.
Thank you so much. We have one question for two people, Honorable His Worship and Mr. Sechito. From one Nachiranda Sylvia. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for reaching out. She goes, Uganda has no minimum age, rather wage. Unemployment rates are so high. Now you're also removing street vendors. How do you expect Ugandans to survive? Can we have a clear plan for our people? We are tired of suffering in our own country. Just very fast, I think. You've spoken about this.
It is very fast. The questionnaire did not plan for me where I am working from. Neither did any arm of government sponsor me to work from where I am working.
Yes, please.
Why do they expect that we should plan for them? Government has a mandate to plan for all of us, not particularly soliciting one group or the other. Government puts a hierarchy. They are moving markets, they are borders, there are all sorts of markets across the world. There is even agriculture. Uganda is an agricultural country. If you think the city is becoming narrower for you, can you please relocate to the village? And the coffee is now very marketable. The highest selling product in Uganda is coffee. So you can farm coffee. Leave the city for those who are legally trading. Or else, I can also add to the question asked to my brother, if you can allow 1 minute, because these people are sent to the markets. They desert them for the street. If you are selling bogoya, and there is a market for bogoya sellers, and then you put it on Market Street, who will buy it from the market? So do not desert the markets, so that whoever wants bogoya knows where bogoya is sent, and that's the market you will be working. Other than destroying the order, and then you claim that you are not selling from there. Would somebody who is looking for bogoya go and buy a phone instead? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Your Worship, just in a minute, as you said, it's time up. The same question, I think, but I want to imagine you could have...
I think he has made it very clear.
Yes.
I don't have to even add on, he has been spot on.
Okay, thank you. We have one question. One person is saying, Mugore, welcome to the party. Yeah, Shamil and him, 1 second, please. We don't have time. Kindly, very short, precise and concise, and kindly make it brief.
Hello everyone, welcome to RNB. As always, I'm here every Thursday, the citizen to whom you are all accountable to. The last time we had a very arrogant person, I think from Human Rights Commission? No, NIRA, the executive director of NIRA. Those are entitled government employees. Now, this question goes to all of you people. The way you are, thank you. Haj, thank you for coming, Sechito. Your way is dodging. But they talk about term limits. Some person has been the acting head of Kasita. I don't know when they will have new elections, but this year, hopefully. Now, the traders you are chasing from the street, all of. Hey, by the way, Honorable Sibambi, we forgave you. You have been pardoned. Yes, the grave diggers have pardoned you. So, you're chasing away Honorable Salim's voters because they voted you. Ask the elites, we do not vote. According to Honorable Siwabe, ask the elites, and he's right. The elites, we do not what? We don't vote. During school, KCC had a program called Urban Rural Migration, where you invest in the rural areas like Maukota, where our Honorable comes from. Now, my question to you people, have you, both the politicians and the technocrats, considered a major infrastructure overhaul? Because the reality is, our streets are small. The roads will not become bigger tomorrow. If the road is 1 meter, it's 1 meter. Have you considered a major, I know it will be expensive, but Honorable, you tell us, have you considered a major infrastructure overhaul to widen our roads, reduce the number of buildings in the city, buy off these rich Bagaga, the late Haji Magoba crew, send them to Mawokota, invest the money there, we shall have bigger roads, and this menace, I believe, should be reduced. Have you people tried it? Instead of running around, because in 6 months, I can guarantee you, your voters will be back on the street, and here in public, you're telling us they should go back, but you're the same politician who will go behind and tell the police, no, please, don't beat those people. Don't hit those ones. You see, we know these things, so please, that is my question to you people.
Thank you so much. We shall take one from him and round it up. I think it's going to be a general comment as your parting shots, I want to imagine. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, especially the panelists. My name is Sergo Eric, a trader from Chikobo. Strictly, let me share with you this question from using Uganda, because the majority of traders, they pay tax in. Those are local traders who normally use Uganda, who normally get information from Uganda. When we KCC and Science Okolaba, Mayor who Science Okolaba and Honorable Yusuf. Ekibuuzo ekisooka kigenda mu KCCA. Ekikuubo nga omukiraba abatembeemu abagobyemu tweyanzeege. Emmotoka trucks zipaakinga side ne side, ziblokinga entrance zigenda mu maduuka agaffe. Tusasula omusolo ngwe mbadde mugamba tusasula rent. Naye ekisinga okutuluma ekyenkomeredde, ezo trucks bwe ziba zigenda nga zifuluma ekikuubo muziggyako omusolo. Kikuwa business community erina ekijegere ekyo. Ejegere ekyo KCCA kyensuubira mu ekyo mufunako share kwogwo omusolo. Ojja kitangaza meeya neyanza. N'ekyokubiri, ssente ezo zibasolooza ziragawa. Ekibuzo ekyokubiri, naddala issue y'omu kikuubo. Tutuuka olw'eggulo okutikkula emmaali. Kati wazzawo tendensi wizola ssaawa 2 ez'olweggulo akiri zijjako amasannyalaze. Simanyi whether mwakidisikasseko meeya Uhuru. Njagala eyo issue ogitwale nga y'amaanyi nnyo kubanga abatembe bagobye ku mbalaza. Wezuka ssaawa 2 kati nze kolera mwaka eri akasiwukira kanjogere eya mwami Yanga. Tusuka ssaawa 2 ez'olweggulo bajjako amasannyalaze. Obajjako amasannyalaze abatembe abo bagobye ku mbalaza kati bayingira mu sitowa z'abantu ne bamenya. Eyo keesi mugitwale nga y'amaanyi nnyo. Abasuubuzi tufubeera mu misango babyono lwa nsonga amasannyalaze gavaako ssaawa 2 ng'abantu bakyalimu n'akedi eziriraanye nga yennyingi. Meeya issue nja kujja mu ofiisi yo tuyongere okugitunulamu amaanyi. Ensonga endala ey'obuyonjo mu kikuubo, abatikkula ekiro akedi we baziggala toilets ezo bannannyini bizimbe bazitendalinga ziggala ssaawa 2 ssaawa 3. Abatikkula ekiro ekyo tebayifuna abo balaga kweyamba. Njogere mu lulimi olumutegeera bulungi. Osanga obuveera nga bulimu empitambi eya buli wamu omusulo. So kati ebyobulamu byaffe tubiteeka ku bweraliikirivu naddala endwadde tugenda kufuna endwadde enzibu ennyo mu kikuubo. Ensonga y'omu kikuubo ogimaze. Njirayo wa Honorable Yusuf Nsibambi okonye ku nsonga ya FDC tiyalina ba agency tiyalina tallying center nga yo. Naye ensonga eno bannamawulire munanjulira. Osobola okugamba agent wange analipoota information nga muggyeko internet. Banashangata information eyo tallying center bava nagamba ba tallying center tuzigobye isinga yo nefuna obuvunaanyizibwa obugatta results ezo. Isi wegatira results ezo bannamawulire bangi babuuza mukama waffe results ezo zivaawa. At least tulage ku draft ng'egyo zifunyeemu eziva mu district nga Soroti municipal council weti zizze zitya. Answer kansweti tetwagifunanga eri open. Nianza nnyo okumpuliriza.
Thank you so much, Eric. It's quite a concerning topic. I know it is only right that we listen to one of the individuals who is, attached to the recent actions of the government. And just for you to know, you have a very wide following as we talk right now. We are out to the public, not just the lawyers. So indeed, this is a very good representation of the traders. I want to imagine you've listened in well and would like to, because of time, and I know your worship, you're running out of time. There is another request also from the audience out there for us to mix the answer also in Luganda, so that we could also speak to the traders, as we have realized he has spoken so well on their behalf, but in the language that they understand. So we're going to request each of us to take a minute or two in your closing remarks and parting shots on addressing the issues that have been asked, but also to close from here. Thank you so much. The order might not matter, but your worship, I think you seem to be very close to the microphone.
Okay, thank you very much. The first presenter talked that do we have any plan for the vendors and the roads and that? Yes, we do. We do have a master plan as KCCA for the next 10, 20 years. And I can assure you it's not only Kampala, it is Kampala and the metropolitan. Because now Kampala is being congested. We're now including Wakiso, Mukono, Entebbe, and the rest. Yes, the master plan is there, and I wish you could pass by my office and I give you a copy of the beautiful master plan that we have as KCC. It's for the better of all Ugandans. And we're going into, how will I say that, improving to, because of the population that is coming into Kampala, the 3 million people is what we're planning for. 5,000 people, not the 3, but 5,000 population of people coming into the CBD. My brother talked about Chikubo. I want to thank you. nja kwebaza okulaba at least osiimye omulimu omulungi kesi zijekoze naddala mu kikuubo omugotego gubadde mungi nnyo. Yes, tuterezaawo naye abasolooza biroole community yammwe waliwo bagita kikubo, very good, kikubo business community mwe musolooza ate tewali wadde n'ekikumi gye muwa KCCA. Sente ezo ziri wammwe muzigabana nga association yammwe, naye bwe tumala akalulu ka LC1 tugenda kujja tulonde obukulembeze buli awo kubanga it has been locked up nga abakulembeze now are saying tuno kiyingira nga KCCA to regulating ensonga eyo. Basasula mutwalo 5 10 kisinzira ku loole emmotoka ezze. Ensonga ya umeme, yes, amasanyalaze abakulu wano Dr. Thaddeus ne Haji Isa bakyogedde luli ne president bamugamba ku nsonga y'amasanyalaze. As I talk now, landlords batandise okuteeka meters, submeters. Era buli muntu ajja kubeera ne submeter ye abeere nga asasula amasanyalaze gakozesa okusinga kubeera nga oli ku landlord kubanga rate ya landlord asaba 1,500.
Very much. Mine is a simple response. Maybe I should say it in Uganda. Basebo ne banyabu twamaze okulonda. Ono adeke here agenda kulayira. Era musabira ayinza okuba whip wapata ya FDC. Fe abantu ababulijjo twakoze kye tusobola okukola. Twagenda tukuba akalulu ne tukabala oba bakabba oba batusinga eyo different matter. Amateeka gakkiriza ne ba agent. Nze n'aba agent babiri nembeera n'aba mukama bange nandala babiri. So I had 4 agents at each and every polling station. Whether babba oba bakosa amaanyi nga Honorable Adeke bwagambye, they were declared winners. You did not go to court to challenge the elections. In other words, Honorable Adeke here, Yoweri Museveni, they are the declared and gazetted winners. But we have a duty and a responsibility to maintain peace. Unless you're going for witchcraft, there's nothing you can do right now. It's just now to insist to have the radical new bar to protect you, the voiceless, and their avenues. So we support this organ, which is constitutionally and legally constituted to fight for the voiceless. Rome was not built in a day. You just note the following has gone wrong. If internet was switched off, did you have powers and ability to switch it on? Where is it provided in the electoral laws that internet has to be the transmission channel to the Electoral Commission? If you did not see that, then Honorable Adeke is here. You provide a proposal and you have a law to that effect, but not a protest vote. I've interacted with this man. He's not willing to let what he calls chaos and gangs and radicalism take over. Young men are in prison, and this is my last call and request. Let us have these boys and girls, because they are young, not even women, go back and reflect on their lives. It can be, compensation, but a fund to rehabilitate them, whether rehabilitation is not necessary, for them to go and have their kids, have food, Medicare, and new life. I think that can be really a good process. When you have that one out, after how many years, those who are leaving will take on these other issues we're talking about. Elections and democracy is meant to make your life better. It's not just ordinary chinyumu. We are not going for a concert. We really want to see service delivery. And that's what you must ask for.
Thank you.
Otherwise, don't even look at Nsibambi. He's an individual. He could even be a thief. He could be anything. But think about Uganda as a country. So we have an issue of the national question, which you can formulate. What is the national question? What are the issues to dialogue and demand from government as law society?
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so much. Thank you so much. Just very fast, use the chance to summarize your speech for the day in Luganda. The traders and the masters would also want to listen if you're able to. If you can't, you can always give your parting shots. But the masters also would want to. There's some journalists out here. We're also speaking to the media to avoid interviews from out because I know you want to run away. They just wanted you to tweak your conversation in Luganda in summary, if it's possible. But if it's not, it's okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm not very proficient.
It is well.
Yeah, but I really would like to thank the Radical New Bar. Thank you very much, Isaac Semakade, for your leadership. I feel that the Uganda Law Society in the last 2 years has done tremendous work for this country, and you've delivered. In comparison to our colleagues around the East African region, I think you've rebranded ULS really nicely, and we are really proud of you. I am proud of you. Speaking about, well, my topic was really on elections, and I think that we, in the last election, we set such a bad example as Uganda in this East African region. And if many more democracies start picking up where we left, it's going to put this entire community in trouble, because we are constantly and consistently shrinking space for our citizens for interaction. What we had is a result of so many years of, first of all, when multipartyism came, it looked like we had really got it right. But thereafter, it's been a persistent disregard of multi-party politics and total suffocation of opposition political parties. If presently we are unable to do a few things, it's because it's the result of consistent effort by the NRM to make the opposition look that way. Otherwise, why would you be blocking and freezing accounts of political parties that have managed to get money in their own ways? It's because you want to be the only one that sets the tone of the election, the only one that is in possession of most of the resources. So I really would not blame us as the opposition. All the challenges that we face, the breakaways, the disagreements, have been the handiwork of the NRM. So I apologize to the SEC member here, senior NRM member. But thank you for this platform, RNB.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. My name is Dr. Musoke Thaddeus Nagenda. Once again, njagala okwebaza aba Uganda Law Society, ate era ne President Isaac, n'enteekateeka ennungi bw'eti. Akyensuubira nti enteekateeka eno eyambye nnyo ddala abasuubuzi, kubanga kizibu omusuubuzi okwewala amateeka. Ate ne munkola bulungi ne nninaana omugole. Omanyi n'omugole si mwangu wa kulinaana. Kubanga nange obwedda neesulako nti nze ani alinaanye omugole. Njagala okwebaza aba panelist mwenna, abantu nno bano banene, mwebale nnyo okuteesa obulungi. Ate olaba ne muganda wange Sekitto, lwali tuli mu ntalo za kasiita, mbadde simubeerako ku pano naye mutusobodde okutuleeta wano, ekyo nno kikulu nnyo. Yakasiita tebyali byangu. Naye mu ngeri ey'enjawulo, tusaba baganda baffe bonna abalondeddwa obuweereza obulungi, ate omugole ankoze bulungi, nga ffe abasuubuzi we are scared, nga tutya, nga tulowooza protest vote eno tunaasigaza akaduuka. Nali enkabweti nga ntya n'okujja mu kibuga, ngenda okulaba nga abantu sebo bali ku kizimbe ky'amapeera bagamba kino nkitwala, muli n'entya ne ŋŋamba ekibuga kigenda kuba kitya. So in a special way, njagala okwebaza baganda baffe abakuuma ddembe. bakola ekisoboka okubeera nti emirimu gyaffe gitambula. Abamu twali tweraliikira emirimu ginaatambula ku byali byogerwa. Naye ndowooza reconciliation ebeera nkulu. Era ne muganda wange omugole kyagambye nti tulabe ne bannaffe abaasibibwa bateebwa batya ate era nga tugoberera amateeka. Kensembyayo ke kano. Bwe nzija wano mpulira nnyo essanyu era ssebo mwebalenga okumpita. Muganda wange ono nno mu pate yaffe abeera mukama wange. Seekememba ate era ye chairman wange wali mu Central. Ate era nze mwogezi wa Entrepreneurship League mu kibiina kya NRM. Naye ku luno tujja kubatwala mu kkooti ng'abatembeeyi bakomyeyo anti kati ndi ne Uganda Law Society. Mukama Katonda bampeera omukisa.
Ebigambo bibiri byokka. Ekisooka okunenya abalandiroodi abajjako amasannyalaze ekiro kimenya mateeka kubanga amasannyalaze tugasasulira abamu tusasula na 2,250 uniti emu. Nina obukakafu nti abala tusasula na 3,000 mu kifo ky'olukumi oba okendeerako. Nolwekyo ekyo twakiwandiikira dda ne muzeeyi President Museveni akimugamba kati ekyokukola ndowooza tunaakiraba. Naye ekisembayo njagala butakkaanya n'owekitiibwa Nsibambi gwempe nnyo ekitiibwa. Nze naliko victim wa wrong security methods oba kyetwandiise inefficiencies za security. Naye tewali na mulundi na gumu oba ndi wano mu bamateeka oba ndi bweru bwe nzikiriza to negotiating ekintu ekyagenda mu court legally. I want to maintain batuleetera amnesty nga batugamba osooka confessinga ti gunsinze siriddamu kwetaba mu bikola bya kiyeekera. I served an extra 8 months to convince the captors nti sayina musango. Era okuva lwe nagumala teri n'omu asobola kunsonga mu lugalo kubanga saafuna amnesty certificate. Court woke up and said, Mr. Issa Sechito and the 2 others, you are free to tuina bujulizi kumwe. It would be very peaceful if the people who were arrested are rescued through the legal process. If it is a politically negotiated position, they are victims the following day. Because they must confess before they get the amnesty, and that would be deadly for their political future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Mr. Muhumuza.
These people are talking about issues of generals. Ours issues of order, not amnesty, not ours are the day-to-day issues. But one as a parting shot, oba mu Luganda nga maliriza, tetuli balabe b'abatembeeyi era tewabaawo alabako CCA ng'omulabe. Ekituleese kuluŋŋamya bya busuubuzi mu kibuga Kampala nti buli omu akolere w'ayina okukolera ate tulabike nti n'omuguzi agenda n'asanga omuntu w'ayina okutundira mu ngeri ennuŋŋamu. Tetumansa kasasiro. Ekibuga kyaffe gwe bw'olaba omuntu asudde, tulabye abantu ababeera mu mamotoka nnene zino ze tulootako. For us we are public servants, tuli baavu. Naye omuntu n'abeera mu Range Rover n'asuula ebweru akaveera. It is bad. Kasasiro waffe tumuteeke ku bimotoka bamutwale. Proper waste management. Tuzimba enguudo. Bannange tubasaba obugumiikiriza. Let's be patient at the road construction sites. Our roads are going to be beautiful. Government has given us money and we are working on them. We may be working on them all at a go, but it is all because all of them have gotten spoiled at a go. So we seek for your patience at these roads, and within the next 3 months or 6 months, we shall have beautiful roads. Aba boda boda okuvugira ku pavement, okutambula ng'ebitaala bitadde nga tebinnata. Let us ride responsibly. We have over 40 bodies a week out of border accidents. Tuvuge bulungi ate tubeere ku stage zaffe. Aba taxi muddeeyo mu park, kubanga kati gye tuvuga tugenda ku border na taxi. Tusaba ffenna abawuliriza, all of us, it is our responsibility to have the city that we all yearn for. Let us do the little things, each one of us. Don't drop a bottle, don't drop a sack of garbage, drive carefully, don't make a third lane, don't step in KCC's green, get a physical development plan, get a building permit. Let's do the right things. And that collection of good things, that collection of the right things being done, shall give us a livable city, shall give us a beautiful city that we are all proud of. I thank you. I thank the Radical Nuba. I thank the President. I thank each one of us, our leaders, for the guidance. We thank you all for a livable city.
Thank you so much. I have noticed one very key aspect among us, all of you, the love for Semakade Isaacs. So that for us is supposed to mean a lot. Each of you has said it in your own accord, and that also means he deserves to say hello to you and thank you through his representative, who is going to give us the closing remarks. And the media had requested that he be spoken to on that issue in Uganda, but I'm going to request him to just run here. Isaac has also requested that this panel, one of the most memorable, take a picture across here for posterity purposes. So when he gives us the closing remarks in representative capacity of Isaac, we shall just come and assemble here and close. Ladies and gentlemen, the Acting Secretary General, Mr. Babu. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here in the representative capacity of our Radical Nuba President, Isaac Semakade Chimaze, and in a distinguished way, I wish to thank the panelists who have come and ably spoken to the two topics that we have shared today. The one of eviction of street vendors in Kampala, which involves balancing of livelihoods and urban order, as well as the reflections on law, justice, leadership in the present day. On behalf of the President of the Uganda Law Society, on behalf of the Radical Nuba Governing Council of the Uganda Law Society, and on behalf of the members of the Uganda Law Society, I wish to thank you all for sparing your time and coming to share with us. And this is also a call to members of the public, mostly the vendors, that in the bid to fight and have livelihood smoothened, we should also look at the implementation of the various plans, institutional frameworks, and also work in mandate with the legal provisions that govern the particular aspects that they wish to move for, like the vending. Because as the representative from KCCA and Mr. Issa Sechito have ably spoken, there is a legal framework that stands and guides what should be vending and how a vendor must behave. Because in the long run, if the law is to be silent and protective of the vendors, then it means that the bigger community who contribute 70% of the tax collection of Uganda, as presented by Mr. Issa, will definitely be offended, and they will also be marginalized. So that means that the next time we shall be standing here, we will have representatives of those who abide by the city policies, those who are paying hefty figures to the landlords, those who are paying in form of licenses and all these operational permits. Therefore, this is a call to those, the vendors, that as the several stakeholders sat and decided that they will come up with various methods of how they should operationalize, but as it stands, vending is now prohibited on the streets of Kampala for the reasons as presented by these honorable members. I want to thank you all and also bring this to an end for today. Thank you all. Before I depart, mu lulimi Oluganda ntuusa okwebaza okwensuso eri bano abakulu abatufiisiza obudde bwabwe okujja ne boogera eri Uganda Law Society n'abantu ba bulijjo okusinziira ku tteeka erituwa obuyinza nga Uganda Law Society, etteeka lyaffe anda mu kawaayiro 3 aka Uganda Law Society Act, era ku nsonga ebbiri ze boogeddeko, esookedde eddala nga yakugoba abatembeeyi oba abatundira ku makubo, ey'okubiri neeba nga yekenneenya amateeka, enkola y'amateeka oba enzisa yago mu nkola, n'okuba nga ebyava mu kulonda oba okutuusa leero enkwata y'obuyinza n'entambula yaayo. Nga ku nsonga y'okugoba abatembeeyi ku kkubo, ye omukulu Issa Sekitto akirambuludde n'agamba bano abantu balina okugoberera amateeka, ate nga naffe tuyimirira ku tteeka okuba nga okuwagira omuntu tulina sinzira ku mateeka, si kugamba nti omuntu tulina omulumirirwa nti lwakuba Munnayuganda naye nga tatambulidde ku mateeka. N'olwekyo ne bagamba nti nno bwe baba nga omuntu wa bulijjo omutembeeyi bamulese n'aba nga ayinaayina, ate abo abasasula essente nnyingi eza renti ne basasulira layisensi oba ne pamiti ezibakkiriza okukola, bo baba baleseewa, ate nga be basinga obungi era be basinze okuba nga bakulaakulanya eggwanga lyaffe. So nno ku ludda luli omubaka wa palamenti ow'abakyala ow'Essoroti Honorable Rnblive Adeke n'omukulu Honorable Nsibambi Yusuf nabo ne balambulula nti embeera y'okulonda teyali nnungi nnyo, teyali nnuŋŋamu, nga essira balitadde ku butali bumativu ne Electoral Commission. Ekirala ne kiba nga ekyalemesa abantu okuba nga balonda omulundi guno bakiteeka ku ekisookera ddala abantu obutaba na bwesimbu mu kigenda kuva mu kulonda. Ekyokubiri ne baba nga abanamagye abaali ku makubo oba mu bitundu ebyenjawulo kye kyasinga okutataaganya okulonda. N'olwekyo nga nsinzidde wano mu representative capacity nga nyimiridde ku lwa omukulembeze wa Uganda Law Society, President Isaac Semakadde Kimaze, Governing Council ya Uganda Law Society n'abamemba ba Uganda Law Society, neebaza bano abakulu era nenzigalawo Rnblive ya leero. Mwebale nnyo.
Thank you so much, General Secretary. A photo moment for 1 second, and then we can release the panelists. I know it's been very hard up on time, but we apologize. And thank you for the audience, the media, NTV, thank you so much. The public and everybody else, the lawyers, we appreciate you, and the vendors who have been in this organization and this presence. Thank you so much once again. Till we meet again next Thursday, for God and my country. Thank you.